That's our cue. Welcome to the City Council regular meeting this Monday evening, September 15th. I now call this meeting to order. Please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mr. City Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Certainly, Mayor Newsom. Councilmember Diaz-Nash.
Here.
Councilmember Svieko-Gaditsky.
Here.
Councilmember Fernandez.
Here.
Deputy Mayor Lorraine.
Here.
And Mayor Newsom.
Here. Before we move into the business items tonight, I would like to take a moment to recognize two important occasions. First, this month, we are proud to celebrate our city's 131st birthday, a milestone that reflects our rich history, growth, and shared spirit of our community. And yes, you can clap. Second, we join communities nationwide in observing the National Co-Responder and Crisis Responder Week, honoring the dedicated professionals who serve on the front lines of public safety and mental health response. Their work ensures that residents in crisis receive compassionate and effective support, and please give them a round of applause as well. And now for our regularly scheduled items. We are excited to be here in person with options for those who choose not to be in person to participate virtually. There are several ways to participate. For those attending in person, please complete a yellow request to speak slip and hand it to the city clerk. If you're If you're participating remotely, please use the raise your hand feature in Zoom, and you will be called on at the appropriate time. If calling in via phone, press *9, raise your hand, and when called upon, press *6 to unmute. These options for public comment will remain available until I close the public comment for each period. We'll now move on to our ceremonial items. Item 1 is Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and we have a proclamation. I invite to the podium Robin Jensen from the Prevention and Community Engagement for Community Overcoming Relationship Abuse, i.e. CORA. And I invite CORA to share a few words. Staff will display a presentation, read a proclamation, and a group photo will be taken after the proclamation. So welcome.
Hi, thank you everyone for taking the time to hear this presentation. My name is Robin Jensen and I am the Manager of Prevention and Community Engagement at CORA. For those in the room that don't know, CORA is the only provider of domestic violence services to the county. And with October being Domestic Violence Awareness Month, I just want to say thank you to Mayor Newsom and the City Council for taking the time to recognize this really important month. And it's a perfect time to also review the Speak Up program that we just did in the City of San Mateo. So I'll just go ahead and get right into it. So really quickly, I just love to review our services so everybody knows. We have our hotline, which is open 24/7 if anyone needs help. We have our legal services, safe house and supportive housing. We have mental health services for all ages, community education, and then the program I'll be reviewing is one of our prevention programs, which is the Speak Up program. And so I believe you all received the written report. This is just a quick overview of it. So we just did it during the month of June through August. So it took about 3 months. And we went to 270 businesses during that time. And we basically what it means is that we outreached 270 businesses to let them know they could receive this free 15-minute training on how to recognize the signs of domestic violence. And of the 270, 61 received the free training. They got a certificate signed by our CEO, Dr. Karen Ferguson, and the mayor at the time. Well, the way it was in 2024, so it was Mayor Nash. But they also received resources that they could post in their place of business so that they could educate any customers or employees that need it. And so the top 5 businesses trained in the City of San Mateo was Samaritan House, Abode Services, in terms of attendance, Samaritan House, Abode Services, Glamorous Look, Mi Rancho Market, and Prima Market. And then on the next slide, really quickly just a breakdown, a pie chart of the business sector. And so we were really happy to see that the biggest one was retail and restaurants, which is great because our survivors tell us that it's mostly when they're out running errands. And so those were the biggest sectors in San Mateo that received the training. And then we'd like to share, there is the blue and white flyer. And so that was posted on the bulletin board at Mr. Bubbles in San Mateo. There are other businesses that posted it, but we're just really happy to see such high engagement from the businesses in the city of San Mateo. And as always, we share our hotline number. So if anybody needs help, you can call this 24/7 and we will answer. And I think that's everything. So thank you. We really appreciate the partnership to provide this program to the City of San Mateo. The businesses were really engaged and made it really easy. And thank you for taking the time to recognize Domestic Violence Awareness Month. That's it.
Thank you.
Yep.
And now stand by for a proclamation. Whereas more than 1 in 3 women, 1 in 4 men, and 1 in 2 transgender individuals experience some form of physical or sexual violence and/or stalking by their intimate partner in their lifetime. And whereas the marginalization of certain groups in society, including undocumented individuals, transgender individuals, and people living with disability, increases their vulnerability to domestic violence. And whereas Cora staff provided more than 10,000 critical services in the past year, ensuring survivors have access to safety, advocacy, and healing. And whereas Cora provided over $1 million in client cash assistance, including subsidized rent, security deposit, and a range of emergency expenses from car repairs to storage costs. And whereas in San Mateo County, 121 adults and children were provided emergency shelter, including stays in safe houses and motels, and 144 adults and children were provided longer-term rental assistance to escape their abuser last year. And whereas 606 adults and children received therapy to help them with domestic violence-related trauma, and Cora fielded 2,092 requests for legal assistance. And whereas San Mateo County recognizes the critical need for countywide services in order to support our residents, and whereas intimate partner violence continues to be among the most underreported crimes, and San Mateo County is committed to eliminating this in all forms of intimate partner abuse. Now, therefore, I, Robert Newsom, Jr., the mayor of San Mateo, and on behalf of the entire San Mateo City Council, now do hereby recognize the month of October as Domestic Violence Awareness Month to raise awareness and encourage all residents of San Mateo County to do their part to help rid our community of intimate partner violence. Thank you and congratulations. We're going to come down for a photo. We now move on to ceremonial item number 2, Fallen Heroes Award Recognition. I invite to the podium Zebediah Butchner, the area manager of Guardian. Welcome, Zebediah.
Thank you. Good evening, and thank you for this opportunity. Hello, everyone. I'm Zebediah Butcher, Area Manager of Operations for California statewide programs at Guardian, here along with a couple of my colleagues. And I'm honored to be here tonight to present the City of San Mateo and Staples Construction with our award of merit in job order contracting for your successful completion of the San Mateo Central Park Fallen Heroes Memorial, which was completed in 2024. A little bit about the award program. Guardian's Job Order Contracting Awards is an annual award program that recognizes innovation, uses innovative uses of job order contracting, or JOC. Job order contracting is the indefinite delivery, indefinite quantity construction delivery method that allows many projects to be completed through a competitively awarded contract. The single solicitation process enables projects to start faster and creates partnerships between project owners and awarded contractors, resulting in higher quality work. Gordian is the creator of job order contracting, and this is the 17th year presenting the JOC Awards. The goal of this program is to build awareness of JOC as an alternative project delivery method and recognize how our customers and partners are using JOC to make significant improvements, renovations, repairs, or in this case, meaningful memorials in the local communities. So choosing the 2024 award winners, more than 46,000 Gordian JOC projects were completed last year, and dozens of projects were submitted in the awards program for all over North America. These projects ranged in size and scope, and the 2024 award submissions were narrowed down to 15 finalists. Submissions are judged on community impact, adherence to JOC best practices, innovation, complexity, special circumstances, and overall time and cost savings. This unique and meaningful Fallen Heroes Memorial Project stood out among the other submissions due to project scope, time savings, collaboration, and the overall flexibility of JOC. A little bit about the Fallen Heroes Memorial Project. For decades, 6 different plaques recognizing veterans were scattered throughout the city. In 2015, then Mayor Maureen Frechette recommended the construction of a formal memorial in a centralized location. This idea received unanimous support from City Council, which led to the inclusion of the Fallen Heroes Memorial in the Central Park Master Plan. The memorial concept was developed and approved, but after years of discussion and planning, the city needed a way to expedite the project. City leaders turned to Gordian's JOC solution, also known as EasyIQC, through the purchasing cooperative Sourcewell. This competitively awarded construction-ready contract enabled the city to accelerate the project delivery process while adhering to procurement regulations. The city partnered with Staples Construction, a local contractor with more than 20 years of JOC experience, and the local Gordian team to deliver this important project quickly. By using Gordian's JOC solutions, the city avoided the time-consuming process of developing formal project specifications and instead used the existing drawings as the basis for a price proposal. The project team procured materials and began construction in December of 2023, and the long-awaited memorial was completed in May of 2024. As Parks and Recreation Director Joanne Magrini stated, using Gordian's cooperative JOC allowed us to move this deeply meaningful project forward without delay. It streamlined our procurement process, gave us access to trusted contractors, and enabled us to focus on the memorial significance rather than getting bogged down in red tape. And now on to the award presentations. This project exemplifies the speed.
Could we invite Director Magrini and
Yes.
King Leon up to receive the award, please?
Yes. This project exemplifies the speed, collaboration, and effectiveness of JOC to deliver an important memorial to the San Mateo community. It's no wonder this project was selected as an Award of Merit winner, and I am honored to recognize your great work. So for the presentation of award plaque to the City of San Mateo, we have Joanne Magrini and King Leon to accept the award on behalf of the City of San Mateo.
Can we, through the mayor,
Yes, of course.
could we also ask Maureen Frisket? And
I was actually going to open this up for the next photo. I'd like to
Yeah.
see if we could have, do you want to finish your presentation and then
Yeah, I was
we'll
going to call up, if you guys can stay
Stay
Pretty
on up.
close. I want to get Staples up here as well too. And now for the presentation of award plaque to Staples Construction. It is my pleasure to present Staples with the 2024 Award of Merit in Job Order Contracting plaque. And I think we have Jason Hernandez, who is the regional manager, and Tyler Drennan, who is the superintendent on this project here from Staples Construction. Ready? Yeah.
Oops.
Yeah. And it is my pleasure as well, as we've awarded and to give it to our very own Garrett Remfer, who's an account manager, who's responsible for the account here at City of San Mateo. In conclusion, congratulations on a successful and significant project. Your great work epitomizes job excellence and will have a profound impact on your local community for decades to come. Gordian is proud to recognize your achievements, and we thank you for your continued partnership.
Okay. And before we leave, we're gonna, okay, go ahead. Present and then we'll move on to the next one.
I just want to thank Gordian for this merit award. I'm honored to accept it on behalf of the City of San Mateo and Parks and Rec Department. Using the job order contract via Sourcewell allowed for us to move this project forward quickly and efficiently. The memorial serves as a tribute to San Mateo residents who lost their lives in the line of duty while serving as service members, police, and firefighters. But I'm happy that we have some committee members here to acknowledge tonight. Former mayors, starting with Maureen Frisquet, and joined by Jack Matthews and his wife, Patricia. Former mayor and council member Lisa Diaz-Nash, and our retired Park and Rec director Sheila Kanzian. They helped develop the memorials concept and had impressive fundraising efforts to make this project go. I'd also like to extend my gratitude to everybody who worked on this project, starting with our senior project manager, King Leong, whose leadership guided the installation from start to finish on this project. To RRM, the design group, whose thoughtful design and attention to detail brought this vision to life. And of course, to Staples Construction, whose skill and dedication turned plans into reality. Also the fabrication company, Thomas Swan Sign Company, whose craftsmanship ensured excellence in every detail. This achievement is a testament to what can be accomplished when we work together toward a shared goal, and shows the city's gratitude and respect for those who gave their lives on our behalf. So thank you.
Councilmember Diaz-Nash has requested to say some comments.
Just very quickly, I'd like to invite everyone here and everyone who's watching this presentation to visit Central Park and actually visit the memorial. It is such a moving experience, and everyone who goes walks away differently. It is a combination of unity, beauty, reverence, and reflection. And I was probably one of the newer members of the committee, and I just wanted to thank all the people from Jack and Maureen and Sheila who were there from the beginning. Diane Pappin was on it, and then for Joanne and King, who brought it home. I mean, it was just such a broad committee, and it really makes such a difference in honoring everyone who made the ultimate sacrifice on behalf of our community. So thank you all, and please visit it.
Okay. We're going to now take a group photo. So I'm going to ask the participants from Gordian, from Staples, the Sheila Kanzian, the Matthews, all of you to come up, and our council will come down as well, and we'll take a large group photo. Oh, and Maureen Frisquet, I'm sorry, how could I forget? And now for our final ceremonial item for the night. Item 3, Suicide Prevention Month Proclamation. I invite Frankie Anguiano, the hotline crisis counselor from San Mateo Suicide Prevention, to please come forward.
Good evening, City Mayor, Council members, City Manager, staff, and residents of San Mateo. My name is Frankie, and I use the pronouns she, her, hers. I am a follow-up and crisis phone counselor with Felton Institute here on behalf of the San Mateo County Suicide Prevention Committee. Thank you to the City of San Mateo for joining other cities in the county in proclaiming September 2025 as Suicide Prevention Month. It represents a powerful moment to reflect on the immense human impact of suicide while simultaneously fostering a renewed commitment to promoting mental health awareness and implementing preventative strategies within our communities. The 2025 Suicide Prevention Month theme is Support Your Way and is a crucial initiative because it moves beyond a one-size-fits-all approach to mental health and suicide prevention. By emphasizing individual autonomy and choice, the theme helps reduce the stigma often associated with seeking help. It validates the diverse and personal nature of healing, recognizing that it may look differently. This personalized approach empowers individuals to take control of their well-being and lessens the burden of feeling like they must conform to a specific method of support. September Suicide Prevention Month is important to me because of my lived experience and the loss of friends and family members who have died by suicide. This month is not only about honoring those we've lost, but also raising awareness, spreading hope, and reminding others that it's okay to ask for help. By speaking openly, we help break the stigma and create safe spaces for conversation and show that healing support are always possible. Therefore, starting today, I invite all of you to take action on one or more of the options. 988, save it on your phone and dial it when you or someone you care about is experiencing emotional distress or a mental health crisis. Educate yourself on what signs of suicide could look like. Look into resources in your community. Attend a local Suicide Prevention Month event, such as the Voices of Recovery annual picnic happening on September 18th. Thank you, San Mateo, for recognizing September 2025 as Suicide Prevention Month.
Thank you, Frankie. Before I do the proclamation, I wear purple tonight for both a family member and a good childhood friend who we both lost to suicide. So it means a lot, and I just remind everyone that you are never, ever alone. And that said, a proclamation. Whereas the month of September 2025 is National Suicide Prevention Month, a time where individuals, organizations, and communities around the country join their voices to amplify the messages that suicide can be prevented. Whereas attitudes and perceptions about aging and behavioral health challenges and suicide have significant impact on individual wellness and willingness to reach out for support and services that can alleviate distress. Whereas thoughts of suicide can affect anyone regardless of age, gender, race, orientation, income level, religion, or background, and it is therefore vital to reduce the stigma associated with mental health and openly discuss suicide to encourage help-seeking behaviors. And whereas the impact of suicide extends to family, friends, community, and workplaces, and it's imperative that we work together to support those who have been affected by suicide loss. And whereas knowing the signs of suicide, finding the words to talk with someone that may be thinking of suicide, and reaching out to local resources can foster hope and strengthen connections. And whereas all Californians are urged to promote dignity through connection, valuing, and uplifting, and voices of those with lived experience, and taking action for suicide prevention and promoting mental health and wellness as we strive towards zero suicides. And whereas we encourage all residents to take the time to inquire as to the well-being of their family, their friends, and neighbors, and to genuinely convey their appreciation for their existence by any gesture they deem appropriate. Now, therefore, I, Robert Newsom Jr., the mayor of San Mateo, and on behalf of the city council, do hereby recognize the month of September 2025 as Suicide Prevention Month, as addressing the mental health needs in San Mateo of seniors, adults, youth, children, and families is fundamental to having a healthy and viable community. Congratulations. We're going to come down for a photo. You'd like to speak? Council. What? Okay, let's move on. We're now moving beyond the ceremonial portion of tonight's meeting with switching.
Through the mayor, I'm really sorry. I'm going off a little off schedule here, but it is Councilmember Lisa Diaz-Nash's birthday. And I was wondering if we could maybe sing happy birthday to her because this is where she's spending the day. She's spending her birthday evening with us.
I would be all in favor of that. Is everyone in? Can we give a motion? A second? All right.
All in favor?
Let's do it. All in favor. 1, 2, 3. Happy birthday
to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Lisa. Happy birthday to you.
All right. Now we're moving beyond the ceremonial portion of tonight's meeting, which includes the business items being considered by the council. For that reason, I would like to remind all in the room and online that we will be enforcing our rules of decorum. As such, we do not allow for jeering, cheering, or booing during the business portion of the meeting, as this tends to put a chill on public comment. Our goal is to ensure that all perspectives are heard. Our motto is give respect, get respect, and we appreciate your cooperation with this. City Clerk, could you please read the consent calendar?
With pleasure, Mayor Newsom. All matters listed under the consent calendar are considered by the council to be routine and will be enacted by one motion without discussion. If discussion is desired, that item may be removed and considered separately. Item number 4, City Council meeting minutes approval. Item number 5, participation in national opioid settlement agreements approval. Item number 6, decommissioned plant processes cleaning project bid rejection. Item number 7, youth commissioners to the Senior Advisory Commission ordinance adoption. And finally, item number 8, City of San Mateo strategic plan approval.
Thank you. Is there any member of the council who would like to pull an item from the consent calendar?
Yes. Number 8.
Number 8 will be pulled. Anything else? Okay. Is there any member of the public who wishes to comment on any consent calendar item? Now would be the time for you to make your comment. This is for consent calendar items only. Mr. Clerk?
Mayor Newsom, I have not received any requests to speak in person on the consent calendar, and we have no hands raised in our virtual environment.
Okay. Council member, would you like to say something about why you're
Yes.
requesting to pull 8?
Thank you. And maybe it doesn't need to be pooled. I just have some follow-up questions for the city manager. Yep.
If I may, so just as a matter of protocol, I recommend that you vote on the remaining items on the consent calendar
Sure.
since you've pulled it, and then you can discuss the item that you've pulled.
Sure.
Thank you, Mr. City Attorney. So we will vote on all items except for option 8. Is there a motion from the council to approve the consent calendar except for option 8?
I move.
Item 8, sorry. Good. Do we have a second?
Second.
Mr. Clerk, could you please take the roll call?
Certainly. Councilmember Fernandez,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Lorraine,
Yes.
Councilmember Diaz-Nash,
Yes.
Councilmember Svirko-Gaditsky,
Yes.
and Mayor Newsom.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Okay, and now I will open it up for Council Member Svirko-Gaditsky to speak about her concerns with item 8.
Yes, thank you. I'll be brief. Just thinking about the strategic planning process, and as we think about 2026 and next year, I just had a few kind of operational tactical questions. Starting with currently Blue Sky is not recorded. Is there any thought about with the remodel of City Hall, potentially moving it here so it can be recorded?
So typically when we have the Blue Sky historically in the city, we try to get to a more informal setting for the day. Doing it here would not allow for that type of informal setting that we typically do at the community college, but whatever council directs to do. But I would say historically what we've done is up the community college, and at least from a staff perspective, we'd appreciate moving in that direction.
Okay. Maybe I'll just quickly go through my questions and then we can discuss it. And then just on a similar note, so currently Blue Sky, we invite folks, anyone from the public can come to listen in. I'm wondering if we could actually ask the head of each commission or invite the commissioners to attend and listen in. There's been some feedback from different commissioners that they're not always clear on what specifically the city council's goals are. And I wonder if we can just streamline that process.
All are welcome, and we'll send an invitation directly to all boards, commissions, and committee members so that we can invite them to the Blue Sky.
And then just on the actual strategic priority setting. So currently each council member, we bring 3 priorities forward. And I'm wondering if there's a mechanism for us to comment on each other's priorities in advance of that meeting, or it has to be discussed at Blue Sky.
So within the actual AR and within just the strategic priorities with the process, it's up to 3. So not just 3, but if you want to do less than 3, that's okay too from a staff perspective. But really the process itself, the way it's set up is that the Blue Sky would be the first opportunity for the council to weigh in on whether or not they want to look into the item. If you have questions or want to go deeper, that's the time that staff will be taking back the initiatives that actually will move forward. And then there's another council meeting just to even refine those further. And that's an opportunity for the council right here in this chamber to ask further questions and have that dialogue and discussion.
Okay. And then I just wanted to ask, I know that we have committee assignments and then we're assigned different liaisons. What is the actual role of those liaisons between the commissions and the council and how it relates to the strategic priorities?
So liaison roles, just overall, I would say that they are the direct conduit and contact between the council and that board, commission, or committee. Typically, if commissioners might get out of line, they could, for example, treat staff badly. And we usually work through the council and that liaison to go ahead and meet with that board, commission, or committee member to ask for them to really make sure that they don't treat staff poorly. That's just an example, but overall, if there are bigger issues, that liaison is the go-to conduit between the council and that board, commissioner, committee.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. So it's less about the actual strategic priorities that we're setting, more about the operational logistics and kind of understanding roles and priorities and how we structure that going into next year. So that's all. Otherwise, I'm okay with the actual item.
Councilmember Diaz-Nash.
Thank you very much. I just wanted to thank staff because I think that what has come back after we had initial comment is very much easier for the public to access. I think the addition of an executive summary was great. I like the way that it was the strategic priorities were reformatted, so it was easier for people to understand how the priority ones related to overall. And I think just in general, the language certainly included everything we said, but I think also was really very thoughtful. So I wanted to say thank you for that. And I was particularly happy that my fiscal responsibility got in there, even though it wasn't in the AR. I was looking for it. It was like, there it is. So I obviously we're all thinking that way, but thank you very much. I look forward to actually putting this to good use.
Okay. I guess my only feedback would be, can we, if we have 3 nodding heads or more, look at the option of potentially recording or live casting from CSM? I mean, I'm not saying we have to do it, but can we look at the feasibility of it?
So yeah, that's happy to do that. Right now we do record. It is just over. We have basically a recorder. So we have everything, from an audio standpoint. It's, if you want the visual standpoint, we'd have to see how we can pull that off and how much it would be.
If we could come back with that, that would be nice.
Okay,
I'll provide. If there's 2 more nodding heads, is there 2 more nodding heads? I know 1, 2. Yeah. Okay. That'd be great.
So what I will do is I'll bring it in a council weekly update for you guys.
Thank you. Appreciate it. And then anybody else have anything to add? Or I will make a motion that we adopt.
Mayor,
you got it. Public comment.
Mayor Newsom, just to confirm that we have no request to speak on item number 8 on the agenda, either in person or in our virtual environment.
Thank you. I will make a motion that we adopt consent calendar item 8.
I second.
And we have a second. Mr. Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Certainly. Mayor Newsom?
Yes.
Councilmember Svirko-Gaditsky?
Yes.
Councilmember Diaz-Nash?
Yes.
Councilmember Fernandez?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Lorraine?
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Okay, we're moving on to general public comment. Next on the agenda is general public comment. Members of the public wishing to comment on any item not appearing on the agenda may address the city council at this time. State law prevents the council from taking action on any matter not on the agenda. Your comments may be referred to staff for follow-up. This public comment section is generally limited to a total of 15 minutes. However, that is subject to the council's discretion and can be extended if council wishes to do so. If needed, an opportunity for additional public comment may also be provided later in the agenda. Mr. City Clerk, could you please tally the total number of requests to speak on general public comment?
Certainly, Mayor Newsom. In our chambers, we have a total of 5 requests to speak for general public comment. That includes 1 request for an organized presentation, which is a total of 5 minutes. If you are in our virtual environment and you wish to speak on general public comment, items not on the agenda, please raise your hand now. We will be just giving you a few moments to do so, after which point we will be closing the request to speak for general public comment. And with that, Mayor Newsom, our final speaker on this item will be Tassos Zagrafis, and we will first invite up our organized presentation, which it will be Natalie Dias, and we will prepare your presentation.
Thank you.
All right, please go right ahead.
Good evening, council members. Thank you so much for your time today. My name is Emma Doherty, and I'm here with Natalie and Kayla, and we're all high school students in San Mateo County. We're here today to introduce the Polluters Pay Climate Superfund Act, if you haven't heard of it already. And what this bill is the Polluters Pay Climate Superfund Act makes the biggest fossil fuel polluters pay their fair share for climate harms. This was introduced by Senator Menjivar and Assemblymember Addis, and it really is a once-in-a-generation opportunity to invest in our future without costing taxpayers.
So some words to think about when you hear about polluters pay are affordability, jobs, protection, preparedness, recompense, opportunity, and investment.
Council members, I want to underscore that this policy is essential during this time in which climate-driven disasters and costs are escalating for our community and communities around our state. We've seen the LA fires cost hundreds of billions of dollars, and we know that by 2050, they will cost our state at least $113 billion annually. We also know that climate change is driving up prices for everyday Californians and is contributing to the overall affordability crisis. We really believe that we've paid enough.
So how does this bill work? First of all, it initiates a cost study across all of California to evaluate damages from companies that have polluted the environment it also identifies responsible parties and assesses compensatory fees from these parties. And lastly, it collects all these fees and creates a climate super fund, which allows fees to be directed to communities in need, especially those affected by floods, fires, and other natural disasters.
So how does this specifically affect San Mateo? So firstly, funding would be assigned to San Mateo to address climate-related disasters or resiliency. Some examples are disaster related to fires, floods, and air quality, all of which we've already seen impact our community. An important thing to note is that this bill ensures 40% of funds must go to income-qualified communities. This bill would also galvanize young people who care about a sustainable and livable future. Really, we're addressing the question of why should people struggling to recover from climate damages also have to pay to clean up after Big Oil's own mess?
Next, we wanted to acknowledge a very real concern that this policy could increase gas prices, and wanted to provide the information that the price of oil we know is set on a global market and not by California policy. In addition, not all gas retailers will be impacted. Those impacted will still have to compete with those who aren't. And ultimately, we really hope that this bill would bring down energy costs and gas prices for taxpayers.
So San Mateo will not be the first city passing this resolution. Currently, there are a couple other cities who have done it in California, including San Diego, which is recent. And this list includes LA, Alameda, Berkeley, and San Francisco as well. So we hope that we'll be able to pass this in San Mateo to show our support.
So we're here tonight to invite San Mateo to follow the other cities in California by passing your own resolution in support of the Superfund Act. This bill needs all the support it can get to pass, and we want to continue building momentum through the new year. And we would really like to follow up with everyone on the city council about this idea. Additionally, individual elected officials can sign a public letter of support themselves. So thank you all for supporting young people and future generations. And that's all we have for you tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to our individual request to speak. If I call your name, if you could please line up to my right, we will invite you to speak. Our first speaker will be Irina Gregorian, followed by Michael Sevilla and Yundi Kim.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Irina Gregorian. I have been a San Mateo resident over 25 years. I'm here tonight regarding long-standing dispute with the City of San Mateo that has been deeply affected my health, my family, my children, and my life. I respectfully request that you please place this matter on a closed session agenda so I can fully explain the situation and work toward the resolution. Thank you very much for your time and consideration.
Thank you. Our next three speakers will be Michael Sevilla, followed by Yundi Kim, and Tasso Zagrafis will be our final speaker.
Good evening. The good news is that the management at Poplar Creek made an extra $90,000 last year on the disastrous VIP program. The bad news is that we are not being told how much money was lost to no-shows and last-minute cancellations by the VIP members. The bad news for residents is that we have to scramble for tea times, and that makes it difficult for us to invite our friends to enjoy our San Mateo municipal facilities. Add to that the frustration at seeing prime-time reservations go unused. The bad news for the city of San Mateo is the mounting costs, the loss of income, and probable judgment against the city from this Par 3 debacle.
In golf, it's important to keep your eye on the ball, and I believe that the management of Poplar Creek Golf Course took their eye off the ball and didn't take their biggest responsibilities seriously enough. That is, maintaining San Mateo Municipal Golf Course. Completely avoidable is what it said in the newspaper. The Poplar Creek Golf Club plays tournaments at Poplar Creek and has many members who are residents. We were scheduled to have a tournament at 7:30 a.m. Saturday, July 12th. Because of a scheduling mistake, the tournament was canceled, postponed. I decided to walk on as a single. When I arrived at the municipal facility, I realized that there was no VIP member in the group or in the group in front. The management of Poplar Creek prioritizes VIPs over residents and the golf club that has supported the course for many decades. What does it take to get fired around here? Is it torturing the residents by taking their ability to use the municipal facilities? Is it angering club members by postponing events so the VIPs waste tee times? Is it placing the new well next to an enormous old eucalyptus after another old eucalyptus fell on the last well? Is it because of the maintenance of the facilities that was botched so that access is not possible with no end in sight? I have so many residents ask me when we can use the municipal facility again. I say maybe when the clubhouse reopens, which could be a very long time. We've been waiting 4 years for proper access to the golf course and almost a year for the clubhouse. Please end the VIP 14-day reservation window and hire some quality municipal facilities management employees.
Thank you. Our next speaker will be UMD Kim, and our final speaker will be Tasso Zagrafis.
Hi, council members. My name is Yunji. I'm a resident of San Mateo. I wanted to share a personal story that I think points to a bigger problem in our town that I'd like to call your attention to. So my personal situation is that I recently moved out of Creekside Apartments on East 3rd Street in San Mateo, right across from our beautiful Seal Point Park. It is owned by Equity Residential, a multi-billion-dollar landlord. I followed the rules. I gave 30 days notice, prepaid rent throughout August 24th. Because I'd already prepaid my rent, I returned my keys a little earlier so that they could get the unit on the market earlier. What a dummy move. Instead of honoring my prepaid rent, they double charged me, refunding those last 4 days on paper, and then rebilling them as a penalty called insufficient notice. They suffered no financial loss. It's a manufactured, frankly, a scam of a fee that they've profited off of many times. I spoke to the office manager about it, and he had to tell me that they've done this many a times. So they know that this is happening. I didn't know where else to turn to, so I find myself here. I called 4 legal aid lines in the county: Legal Aid San Mateo, Bay Area Legal Aid, Project Sentinel, and Community Legal Services, and Tenants Together. None could give me the support because they're already inundated with eviction matters, and understandably so, as those are more urgent cases. This isn't about the dollar amount, it's about the principle. If I, as an educated professional, am feeling misled and powerless in this situation, I know there are many other first-generation families in our community, many with limited English speaking skills, that are even more vulnerable to deceptive business practices like this. So I want to drive home 2 closing points for you all. Housing challenges in this county are already straining very limited resources, and residents are facing predatory practices and don't have anywhere else to turn. So I urge the council to look into deceptive business practices like those from Equity Residential. They have properties all throughout our county and in San Francisco and throughout the state. Hope you can strengthen tenant protections and expand support for legal aid services that are direly needed by San Mateo residents. Frankly, we deserve better. So thank you so much for your attention to this matter. Thanks.
Thank you. And our final speaker for general public comment will be Tasso Zagrafis.
Good evening, council members. Back on February 3rd, I reported to you about the camera system installed on Humboldt Street to objectively measure traffic, cars, trucks, motorcycles, and bikes 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for over 9 months now. That's over 6,000 continuous hours of real-time event detection, both northbound and southbound. Tonight, I want to give you an update focused solely on the bike lanes. Before and at the February meeting, some had claimed Humboldt saw 10,000 bike trips per year, even 10,000 bike trips per day. The hard data tells a very different story. In the first month, we reported an average of just 3 bike trips per day. Since then, that average has modestly increased to about 6 to 7 per day. Now you ask why? Well, this change is predominantly around the early morning hours and the late evening hours. Pretty much aligned the growth with the time that the daylight has extended during the summer months. And actually, you don't have a lot of rain even in the summer as you do in the rain. But we anticipate that to go back to approximately 3 bike trips per day from November through February. And that's what we expect. The same trend is being recorded now on Poplar Avenue bike lanes, which currently average around 5 to 6 daily trips per day. A couple of notables. The bike trips recorded are those in the bike lanes, and there are other bikes who do not use the bike lanes, predominantly the sidewalk or the street. So you may see more bikes, but they're not actually in the bike lane, which goes to the other point, which is there are more bikes riding in a city adjacent to the bike lanes or the roads where there are bike lanes, but they're not using the bike lanes. So these bike lanes are not showing the kind of growth some had predicted, despite being in place for many years. The data shows these bike lanes remain virtually unused while residents have lost parking, traffic congestion has worsened. Circling cars, idling traffic don't just frustrate residents, they increase emissions and safety risks. The lesson is clear. We must base decisions on reliable data. You can't just use surveys that have anonymous respondents, and you can't look at letters of support like the 500 or so in the packet on February 3rd. We've profiled most of those folks, and none of them have been seen on the bike lanes. I urge you to weigh the impact on the 99% of residents who rely on cars and parking. Please restore the Humboldt Street parking spaces, and please use real data when you're looking at projects that impact traffic. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And Mayor Newsom, that concludes general public comment.
Thank you. Mr. City Clerk, could we get the name of the woman who had the tenant problem and see if we could get some support?
We can have housing staff follow up.
Thank you. So make sure we have your name and email address and phone number. Thank you. Okay, we're now going to move on to our next item of business. This is item number 9. 19th Avenue, Fashion Island Boulevard Multimodal Improvement Project Informational Update. With that, I will now turn it over to my colleague, Councilmember Swarko Kadiki, to make a statement.
Thank you, Mayor Newsom. I'll be recusing myself from this item because a portion of the project is less than 500 feet from my employer, which is a source of income for me, and I also hold stock in the company. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Yeah. We're going to take a 5-minute break. So 5 minutes, we'll resume in 5. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for the break. We now return to our meeting. The item in front of us is item 9, the 19th Avenue Fashion Island Boulevard Multimodal Improvement Project Informational Update. We'll have a presentation from Bethany Lopez. Welcome, Bethany.
Good evening, Council. My name is Bethany Lopez. I'm the Senior Engineer. I oversee the Traffic Engineering Division for the city here. With me tonight, I wanted to introduce Carolyn Mamoradlo. She's here with the San Mateo County Transportation Authority. We're working together on this project with the SMCTA as the lead agency, and we are working with them as the project sponsor for this. I wanted to just note right here at the beginning that we are only seeking feedback tonight. We're not necessarily seeking any specific decisions. We're not, no decisions are going to be made this evening. And we're just looking for input from council and from the community. So this is an opportunity for that. I also wanted to note that this is a relatively early time period to be engaging with council. We're early in the design right now. And so what this affords is a lot of opportunity to take those comments and potentially incorporate more substantial changes at this point. Sorry, I'm trying to adjust this screen really quick. All right, there we go. So what we're going to be discussing tonight is the goals and background for this project, talk through the existing conditions that are out there on the corridor, and talk through the planned improvements. I did want to make note that we're not necessarily going to walk through the entirety of the project design tonight. You do have that in your agenda packet, but I do have those as slides if there are specific questions about any specific components of the design. So this will be a little bit more high level. I'll walk through the traffic analysis as well, talking about some of the challenges that we see on the corridor and how we expect the project is going to help address those. Go through the outreach that we've covered so far and what we have planned, walk through the funding and schedule for this project, and then open it up for discussion. What we're specifically looking for feedback on is some of the design components that we've incorporated with the project. One at 19th Avenue and Delaware and the SR 92 eastbound ramps. One of the more, maybe not more, one of the most challenging intersections on the corridor, as well as the Norfolk Fashion Island Boulevard intersection, where we're proposing some of the more substantial congestion relief elements. We'll also seek feedback about the outreach that's been conducted so far, and then also about the funding strategy that we're proposing for this, including a grant application resolution that we're planning to bring back to you in early October. First and foremost, I wanted to talk really quickly about the project goals. So as you can see here, the top goal here is to provide congestion relief and improve traffic flows along the corridor. We are looking to improve safety and access, and this is for bikes and peds along the corridor. By improving some of these congestion relief elements, we are intending for there to be transit travel time improvements, but we do also have some specific transit bus islands that are incorporated on the project as well. And then along with all of that, we are looking to limit the amount of parking loss associated with these expansions and improvements on the corridor. For a little bit of background, for specifically the Fashion Island and Norfolk intersection, this is an intersection that we've been hearing from the community about for a long time. And this was one that we had received private developer funding from Pulte Homes to help address some of the congestion at this intersection. We had also helped advocate for, through a developer agreement, additional traffic improvements along this corridor from the Concar Passage project. That project has been superseded by a new application, and so the funding from that project, we're not necessarily expecting to see that funding that was agreed to previously. But it is worth noting that that was part of the developer agreement at that time. So it just suggests the importance of this corridor. And again, the scope of that was to the scope of this funding was to reconstruct the intersection so that it can be congestion relief can be provided. For the bike improvement component of it, starting in 2023, there was an effort to take a look at this corridor. The bike facilities were looked at on either side of the roadway. There were a handful of different, there was a handful of different alternatives that were proposed. And this was also proposing a connection to a mobility hub that was being planned at the Caltrans park and ride lot. That part of the project is not moving forward, but the bike improvement part of that planning effort is what has led to this part of the project right now. To talk a little bit about some of the corridor safety data, we took a look at all the collisions from 2019 to 2024, and we've seen over 200 collisions in that time period. That includes 3 peds, 3 bikes, and this data does not include a recent fatality out here on near Seal Slough Bridge in early 2025. 19th and Delaware is also on the countywide high injury network hotspot, as well as Fashion Island and Norfolk, so our 2 hotspot intersections. And then Fashion Island and Norfolk is listed on our own local roadway safety plan as the number 5 top priority. Continuing with some of the data, we see that this corridor has speeding challenges, and so this has been identified on CEQA's Safe Routes to School speed analysis. And then also for the youth-based high injury network, this location in this corridor was also identified on that. So I'm going to jump into a little bit of roadway context for this particular corridor. So in the entire city, we're familiar with US 101 being a challenging barrier. It's a barrier to get across it. We have limited accesses, and we also are familiar with a lot of the east-west traffic and the challenges on 92, both incoming and outgoing in the morning and afternoon. And with that, we, like I said, only have limited accesses crossing 101. We have Peninsula, 3rd Ave, this corridor, 19th Avenue and Fashion Island Boulevard, and we have Hillsdale Boulevard. We also have 1 bike and ped crossing only, which is on Monte Diablo. So this just really identifies that we have limited crossings over 101 that's identified as a barrier, and it really stresses the need to make sure that we're identifying improvements for all users over these important roadways. Moving into the existing conditions and planned improvements, I'm going to talk about the congestion component at a high level. We also have a traffic analysis component where we will dive into that in more detail, talk through the bike network gaps, head network gaps, talking about some of the parking changes, as well as that 19th Avenue Delaware SR92 intersection. And again, that's the one I'm going to be asking for feedback more specifically about at the end of the presentation. Going through some of the corridor congestion, this is a snapshot from Google. You guys are probably familiar with this. This is at 5 p.m. On a typical weekday, and you can see a lot of the traffic going eastbound, exiting the city out across the bay. Our corridor and project location lies right in the middle of this, and so it's really a prime location for folks to detour off of the freeway in this area to utilize different routes. In taking a look at some of the data for this, we used streetlight data. This is a program that uses cell phone data, big data, to try to analyze big picture numbers, essentially. And so what we see in the morning in the westbound direction and midday and the afternoon, we see it's relatively, stays relatively constant. It goes up a little bit in the afternoon. However, in the eastbound direction, we see those vehicle hours of delay. And again, that's the measure of all the hours of all the vehicles that are combined in each one of these directions throughout these time periods. And we see that those numbers start to increase in the midday, and then they compound into the afternoon. And so what this does is it really just identifies the need for rebalancing on the corridor. And that's really what we're going to be proposing here. One thing that we've heard a lot of from different comments is that there's a lot of people that are cutting through on 19th Avenue. The suggestion is that they're utilizing 19th Avenue to skip the freeway and eventually make their way back onto 92. Using that same streetlight data program platform, big data from 2024. I wanted to walk through what some of those destinations are starting here on 19th Avenue. So first of all, we see Norfolk, and 31% of all the traffic coming out on 19th Avenue in this section are going north on Norfolk. We see about 20% of those vehicles traveling south on Norfolk. We see another about 15% going to the Bridgepoint Mall and Bridgepoint Shopping Center area. About 8% each going up Mariners Island and down Edgewater Boulevard towards Foster City. And then we really only see about 2% that are heading back to the freeway in this area. And so what we're identifying is that a lot of the traffic on 19th Avenue and Fashion Island Boulevard in this area is local community members. It's not necessarily people cutting through and cutting back to the freeway. And like I said, I'll talk about this in more depth in a few slides, but I did want to identify, these are some of the challenges that we're seeing. This is a typical queue length that we're seeing from our analysis. So when we talk about queue length, this is just sort of the fancy word for congestion. This is how long the congestion is. And what we're proposing with the project is really to reduce that very substantially. And this is what we're seeing post-project. Moving on to the bike master plan, this corridor is highlighted here. You can see these dotted lines represent a separated bike lane. So just to talk about what's out there currently, we have a conventional bike lane, and this is where bicyclists ride right next to the traveling vehicles. And what we're proposing is a separated bike lane. And really the main difference is these vertical elements. This can be delineators that are shown here, curbs, planters. Sometimes vehicles are used for that separation as well. And so what I wanted to identify here is the existing bike network that's in this area that this corridor will be connecting to. So we have Delaware Street. This is the Safe Routes to School project that you guys heard about just recently that is currently out to bid. We have Grant Street. We just made improvements on Grant Street to implement a bike boulevard by implementing speed cushions out there. Norfolk, just south of this corridor, Norfolk north of the corridor, and you can see that there's a gap here, and I'll talk about that in a second. Mariners Island to the north, and then another gap there, Mariners Island to the south. So like I said, I'll be talking about this section a little bit later on when we talk about the traffic analysis, but there is a missing piece here. There's another missing piece here at Mariners Island Boulevard. We're not necessarily talking about this tonight, but this is something that the design team is looking at to see if there's something that we can do to establish this connection. So these are just the facility changes that we're proposing, and I'll talk a little bit more about the actual proposed network alignment in the next slide. So we're proposing to establish that connection per the bike master plan all the way to Pacific Boulevard, and this will establish that connection all the way towards Caltrain. Again, in the opposite direction, we're looking at establishing that to the existing bike facilities that exist there, starting at Delaware and 19th. And again, we're going from conventional bike lanes with this project, and we're proposing to change them to separated bike lanes by establishing this new buffer and the vertical elements. So for the lane alignment on the eastbound direction, what we see is a typical bike facility. It lies along the southerly side of 19th Avenue, and this is a more typical bike facility that you would see. For the westbound direction, however, we are doing something a little bit different where we're converting it from one on each side of the roadway, and we're going to be dropping it down at Grant and pushing it on the southerly side of the roadway on the westerly side of the corridor. And the primary reason for that is to avoid the on-ramp, the off-ramp and on-ramp traffic at Delaware. And I'll walk you through some of that design again in a few slides. And so this is what that looks like when you have a two-way bike facility or two-way cycle track is what this is on the left side. And then this is your more typical bike lanes on either side of the roadway that you'll see on the easterly side of the segment. So we're going to have a combination of these two types of facilities along the corridor. For the existing sidewalk network, what you can see here is that there's fragmented parts on the northerly side, and we're missing some pieces here on the we're missing this one piece here on the southerly side, and this is across Seal Slough Bridge. This is something that you're probably familiar with. There's a little 2-foot buffer in this area. We see pedestrians actually using this small buffer. This is actually a structural component of the bridge. It's not necessarily intended for a sidewalk, as you can imagine. And so this is one that we're looking to establish that connection for. So what we're looking to do is establish at least one full connection along the entirety of the corridor. We're also looking to establish a new crosswalk here across Norfolk where there isn't one currently. And so we think that this is going to help reduce some of the circuitous routes in this area that require people to cross multiple times just to get to their destination. We're also making other pedestrian safety improvements at that intersection, as well as all the rest of the intersections along the corridor. And just to talk about those a little bit, this is an example of the design. Sorry, not an example. This is pulled from the design. These are the older designs. So I know that I had indicated that the bike facilities were going to be changing over at Grant. This is Grant. And so this design is currently being revised, but I thought it was a good example of some of the pedestrian improvements that we're proposing. So you can see we're improving the ramps in these locations. We're also reducing some of the radii to help improve safety around those corners by slowing vehicles, making those maneuvers. We're also including these features. These small medians help implement what's called a protected intersection. And you can see that this is a raised component in both of these areas. And I'll show you an image of this in just a second. And the vehicles would be required to travel around these. But this median, as you can see in this image, provides a protected space behind that median. The orange space that you see here, or the darker brown image that you see on there, or the part of it that you see on there, that's a truck turning apron. And that's the red in this image. So it allows large trucks to make these maneuvers still, but it encourages passenger vehicles to travel all the way around them. It's not really a comfortable experience for them. All right, moving on. So some of the context for this corridor is this, the 10192 bridge. There's a huge bridge structure all around the entirety of the corridor. I'm going to show just a handful of, sorry, maybe not a handful, this is a lot of the columns in this area, right? The entire thing through a lot of the corridor is a bridge structure, and it requires these structural components of it. And so our project goes right through the middle of it. And so as we talk about the sidewalk on the northerly side and what we can do to address some of that, this is the context that we're working in, is that we have all of these bridge supports. And so these small dots are going to represent some of those. But this is an example of that, where you can see the bridge supports come really close to that northerly side of the corridor. This is another example of that. And another example of that. So along all of this area, we have some really challenging infrastructure that we're trying to build around. And so, and these are things that we're having to include in the design considerations. We do have these other areas where there are no bridge columns that we are looking to utilize. And so this is an example of that. You can see this wide red space, or it's shown in red. It's not really red out there. But this is sort of a representation of what these lines are in reality. And so what we're looking to do with that space is actually widen the roadway into those areas so that way we can maintain parking. And you can see on this image, this is the section between on 19th Avenue between Delaware and Grant. You can see a lot of the parking in this area. And actually, if I go back, you can see the parking being utilized in this area. The parking is utilized pretty heavily. This is a daytime photo. It's sort of representative that there's a high demand for the parking in the area. And so we thought that that was an important component to incorporate with the project. And so I'm going to show you just sort of a transition to the proposed design. I'm going to do that twice so you can kind of gauge and see where the differences are. So this is that proposed design, like I said, and what you can see is on the northerly side of the road. Let me see if I can get that out. You can see some of the changes being proposed in this area. So as I do that again, this is one area that it's more pronounced. And you can see that we're widening more substantially into that area. And again, all of this is in order to try to maintain as much parking out here as possible as we implement the new bike facilities through here. But this still does come with some changes. So currently there's 64 parking spaces out there. We're currently showing on this image 43 parking spaces, which is about 21 parking spaces removed. However, this is still, like I said, a design that's in the works. And so as we're working through the traffic analysis, we're looking at where we can make refinements now that we have some additional data. And this is one of those such locations that we think that we can refine how long one of these turn pockets are, for instance, at the intersection. And we think that we're going to be able to get back another 7 spaces through here. There are some additional proposed parking changes east of Seal Slough Bridge. So again, I'm going to do sort of the same thing. This is the existing, and this is what we're looking like with the proposed project. This is largely underutilized parking, and so this is being reused for the new bike facilities that we're improving out here. In these areas, we have currently 25 spaces and we're proposing 11 spaces. All right, moving on to Delaware. Like I said, this is the most complicated intersection on the project. There's a lot of considerations for this intersection, especially because we're seeing that of those 200, over 200, we see 80 of the collisions occurring right here at this intersection. So that's kind of a big deal. We also see some challenges with this gas station. Great gas station, really good prices. And so, but this has its own challenges because it has a really small space for people coming off the freeway to make their maneuvers into and out of this gas station and then make their maneuvers towards the Delaware intersection. And so you can see some of these conflicts here. At this intersection alone, this small gas station intersection, which I'll call just a small intersection, there's been 47 of the collisions of the over 200. So this is getting close to about 25% of the entire corridor's collisions are happening right here at this intersection, at this small driveway. That's compared to 33 for the intersection itself. So it sort of identifies how substantial of an issue this particular part of the this intersection is to try to address. One of the other things to mention is that in our online survey, which I'll talk about, we had in some of the outreach that we've done, is that when we asked about this intersection, this gas station and the entrances and exits and the conflicts here were identified as the top challenge with the intersection. All right, moving on. There's other challenges on the southerly side of that driveway as well. We're not going to touch on those too much right now, but just wanted to note that there's still challenges in these segments as well. And then this has a really unique challenge at this intersection is in that we have these 2 different sort of one-way ramps. And so we have to address these with somewhat unique lane configurations. And so going through what we're actually proposing here, I'm going to do that same thing. We're going to flip back and forth just a second. This is the proposed design for this location that we currently have. And what I want to draw attention to is the left side of the intersection where we're making some of the more substantial changes. So what we see here, first and foremost, is the proposal to add a new median here. This median will restrict vehicles coming out of the gas station. It will restrict people from accessing it from the off-ramp. How about that? And so what it will require folks to do is to make a right turn here to be able to access that gas station from here. You'll also see some of the widening that's being proposed in this area. And in particular, you can see the widening into the landscape area. And so we're really looking to try to maintain as much of the traffic flow as possible. We're not trying to reduce the lanes. We're trying to utilize some of this space where we have that available to try to appropriately manage the traffic through here. We're also including a new, what's called a signal phase, essentially a new movement at the intersection so that we can allow folks to be able to come out of that gas station and make the maneuvers that they need to make. We're showing the bike facilities on here. So again, these are those 2-way bike facilities that we had seen earlier where they're both on the same side of the roadway. And the reason why we're proposing it is largely because of this intersection. So that way they can avoid any of the traffic on the northerly side related to the ramps. What this does again is by implementing that median, it does provide some additional safety enhancements for the bike facilities in that we won't have that conflict with the vehicles coming into and out of that gas station and also having conflicts with the bike facilities here. We're also going to be working through connecting to the Delaware Safe Routes to School project in both directions. And part of that is going to incorporate removing the existing median to help fit that in. And then while these are not parts of the scope of this project, we are looking to widen part of the sidewalk on the northerly side to help us with the future implementation of the bike facilities through here, which we're anticipating is going to need to be on the sidewalk due to the limited right-of-way under the bridge. The sidewalks through there are about 8 feet wide, which are typical, sorry, not typical, but they're sufficient for a combined path. And then this is another change that we're proposing here. This is the current operation where you have a through lane and these 2 left lanes. And with this proposal, we're we're currently proposing to remove that. And so we would have only left lanes and then we have through lanes. And so this is the change in the operations at the intersection. You can see that there is an increase in the delay. A lot of this is related to that new movement that we're proposing. And a lot of what we're seeing in this increased delay has to do with that eastbound side, not easterly. So this is for the west side of the intersection for eastbound traffic coming off the freeway. That's where we're seeing the highest increase in delay. And again, we're still pretty early in the design. And so now that we have some of the traffic analysis, this is relatively new data, we're going to be taking this back to see if we can refine some of that design to help reduce some of this delay, these delay values. But for the safety benefits, particularly for some of the challenges that we're seeing, we think that some of these are acceptable trade-offs. 45 seconds of delay is the target city threshold. And so these align right around in that area. Jumping into the traffic analysis. This is largely for the Norfolk and Fashion Island Boulevard intersection. So before talking a lot about what we're actually proposing to do, I wanted to talk quickly about some of the signal and intersection design principles and just some of the lingo. And so we talk about the amount of time that we're giving a vehicle or giving a specific movement. This is called a timing split. Each movement at an intersection has its own timing split. And that's important because sometimes even if you provide a high amount of timing split, it doesn't always provide sufficient time. Next, we have the queue length, and this is how long the stack of vehicles is waiting to make that maneuver. And then we also have a storage pocket length. And so in this example, you can see that the storage pocket length is shorter than the queue length. And so when that through movement has their green light, you can see that there's a handful of vehicles that are left behind. This is called the demand volume. And so what happens at this particular intersection and along this corridor, we have a really long peak period. Typically a peak period is around 2 hours. Because of all of the traffic going through 92 in this area, our peak period is more like 4 hours. So it's a really long period of time from 3 to 7. And so when we have this demand volume, you can imagine that as this happens, every time the signal cycles, it's just going to stack more and more and more. And that's what we see. And so what we see from the analysis is that we're actually only serving about 88% of the traffic per hour. And again, this gets combined and stacked in all of these different hours in the peak hour. And so talking a little bit about that eastbound direction in particular, we can see that we have about 100-foot storage length for the left turn, 100 for the right turn. And these queues extend all the way back towards Delaware. And so what are we going to do about it? This is what we're including in the proposed design. One of the first things that we're looking at doing, this is a community proposed solution that we've heard for a long time. And so it's something that we're incorporating in the design, is to shave down the median that's out there. And what that's going to gain for us is going from 100 feet of storage to about 550 feet of storage. It's a really substantial improvement. And so this is that median, an image of that median. You guys are probably familiar with this. And so again, this is what we're looking to shave down, and we'd be maintaining a small portion of that. And this will allow us to widen the roadway into the 2 lanes that I'll show again in a second. One of the other things that we would need to do if we're trying to provide these additional lanes is we're taking a look at swapping the lane configuration on the bridge. So currently there's 2 westbound lanes and 1 eastbound lane. And this is the current operation that we have, 1 left, 1 through, and 1 right lane. And in the proposed operation, we're looking to swap these. And so we would have 1 lane in the westbound direction, 2 in the eastbound direction. And this would allow us to move more traffic through the intersection utilizing that second lane that we were just talking about. One of the things that's helps support some of that information is this peak time period right here. And you can see in the eastbound, this is current traffic. It's about 50% higher than the westbound traffic in the afternoon time period. And this is with the eastbound traffic only having 1 lane right now. And so we think that this is appropriately redistributing the way that the bridge is currently operating. All right, and then coming back to the proposed design, there's a few other changes that we're proposing to make. In particular, there's currently 2 northbound lanes on Norfolk. We're looking to convert one of those lanes to a southbound left turn lane. This is an additional measure that we're considering to help improve the efficiency of the intersection. And this is where that lane is currently. We have the bike facilities that are being proposed through here as well to help establish all of those connections. And then what we see as a result of these improved travel lanes, the flip on the bridge, and then the extension of those travel lanes, this is the queue length that we're looking at on average as a result of that. So the left turn coming back a few hundred feet, the through movement, and then the right turn movement. And so again, this is just that same image that I had shown previously, demonstrating the changes. So I wanted to be able to show really quickly, this is an output from our simulation software. So this is analysis that we do when we're looking at some of these proposed changes for intersections. This is just a snapshot really quickly, but what I wanted to identify is that you can see these different colors of vehicles. Each color represents a different movement. And so as we scroll through, you'll see where people are proposing to make, like what their proposed movement is, and you'll see some of the challenges in that folks can't get into their turn lanes. So let's see if this works. All right. So this is 4 times speed of traffic coming through the corridor. And like I said, this is an output from our traffic analysis software. It's a simulation. And this is the existing conditions. We can see some of those challenges as we continue westerly looking at that eastbound traffic. As you can see the continued stacking of these vehicles, like we were mentioning, all the way out towards Grant. And then during different times of this time period, we see all of this traffic extend all the way down towards Delaware. There's a small intersection that's shown here. This is actually just representative of the gas station exit. It has so much volume right now that we felt the need to represent it as its own thing. And then moving on, this is the proposed traffic conditions during the same time period. Let's see if we can get that to start. There we go. So again, we're at 4 times speed here. And some of the things to note is that we are anticipating that there's going to be some increases in traffic in the westbound direction here. But what we largely see is that, yes, there are some queues that are building here. And again, these are those left turning vehicles, right turning vehicles. As we start to scroll to the left, you'll see some of the changes and what this means in terms of the reduced congestion through the corridor. And then in just a second, I'm going to bring up, we'll show Delaware, the Delaware intersection, and this includes the proposed changes at Delaware, including that new movement that we were mentioning. And so you can see this is the operation that's currently being proposed there. I usually watch this at 8 times speed. You can see that 4 times is a little bit slow. And you'll see this new maneuver coming through right here. And again, this is largely the volume, the primary volume driver, and this leg is from that gas station itself. All right, moving on to the outreach. So we held our first community meeting on July 15th. We held it at Nueva School. We had about 50 attendees. We had advertised this through about 10,000 mailers that we had sent out through the Shoreview neighborhood, Fiesta Gardens, Harbortown, all the way out into some of the 20th Avenue neighborhood. So just, you know, even beyond, even west of El Camino, we had done a thorough job sending out mailers on this project. We had social media platforms, and we put out a number of posters along the corridor in advance of the community meeting, not just along the corridor itself. And these are largely for bikes and pedestrians to be able to see them. They're not intended to be vehicle scale posters, but we put them we put them along the corridor as well as in some of the community areas that we are hoping to get some of the driver to the community meeting or to our online survey. So some of those other locations were like Fiesta Meadows, Trader Joe's, the Caltrain station, the Hayward Park Caltrain station. Again, trying to show this information where people are. And like I said, we had about 50 attendees where we walked through the project designs, and on the online survey that we had put out to largely try to mimic this information, we had about 150 responses. We've also had some meetings with some neighborhood representatives, and the concerns that we were largely hearing from those representatives were about some of the eastbound traffic and eastbound right turns at Norfolk. We've held 2 meetings with them so far to walk through some of that traffic analysis. This is a really quick slide to show some of the outputs of that analysis or the survey data. And the main thing that I want to note with this is that the vast majority of people are indicating that their trips are short or medium trips, about up to 10 miles. And one of the things that's important about this information is that for trips up to 10 miles, it has the highest propensity of mode shift. And so as we're looking to make these improvements, we're hoping to try to capture some of these audiences. We think that they're great audiences to try to consider alternative modes. Some of the feedback that we had heard from the workshop, a lot of people largely supported the bike and pedestrian improvements. There was a lot of concern about some of the transitions. I don't think I had mentioned it earlier, but the transition from the one-way to the two-way bike facility that we're proposing was previously shown at the YMCA parking lot. And some of the feedback from this community meeting suggested to change that location. And so that's what we've done so far. A lot of comments about the traffic congestion, and then just wanting to make sure that as we looked at the design, that there was appropriate protections for bikes, like at the gas station that you can see here, and just turning movements generally. And then also there was information or a desire for more information about how the land uses and future development would influence some of this information. This is some of the engagement that we've done so far. We've already had some of our early coordination with fire and PD. We are going to be continuing conversations with Samtrans. We've started to reach out to the Arco gas station, but haven't had conversations with them yet. Same thing with the Bridgepoint Shopping Center and Target, SVBC, and we have a meeting tomorrow night with College Park PTA to present this project. We're still going to be reaching out to neighborhood associations. We're working on setting up a meeting with the Center for Independence of Individuals with Disabilities to talk through our ADA community and to try to bring this to the San Mateo Youth Commission to try to get some of our younger audience engaged. And then we have our next community meeting is being planned for November 5th. This would be held at College Park Elementary. Jumping to the next thing, funding strategy. So what we see as far as what we're trying to do with this project is that a lot of the challenge is that there's a desire to address congestion along the corridor. And one of the challenges with addressing that congestion is that there's not a lot of grant funding opportunities for that. And so as we look at how to improve the corridor or how to make those changes to address congestion, we need to really take a complete streets approach with it. The funding that are available for a project of this size require there to be multimodal elements, safety improvements, as well as the congestion relief. It can't just be congestion relief on its own. And so that talks through, or that gets us to some of the funding that we've had so far. We've put in about $500,000, and what we have so far is secured around $9 million to date. This is a really small amount of money that the city has put in for how much we've been able to leverage getting for the project. In particular, the federal funds are being leveraged against the TA's funds to be able to get more money for the project. And this is our funding goal. This is what we're seeking. So similar amount of federal funds, as well as the TA grant funds that are here. And we just put in an application for, I know this is a different number, for $16.4 million in TA funds. And again, what we're hoping to do, not hoping, what our strategy is here is to leverage the federal funds that we've already received for the project for this construction phase, and using that as the match. The matching funds that are required, as opposed to having the city's funds be on the hook for that matching fund. And so by doing so, we've been able to leverage this substantial amount of ask and what we're trying to get for the total construction of this project, which is around $25.5 million. Next steps is that we are working on our next phase of design to incorporate feedback. We are going to continue our outreach to various stakeholders. We have our second community meeting coming up on November 5th, as I just mentioned. At that meeting, we're going to be presenting a lot of this same traffic analysis and also how we've incorporated some of the feedback and changed some of the design in response to some of that. And we are looking to try to complete the design by spring of next year. Coming back to the discussion points. So we're looking for feedback on that 19th Avenue, Delaware and eastbound ramp intersection, as well as the Norfolk and Fashion Island intersection. If there's any additional feedback on the outreach, as well as the funding strategy. And I did mention that we put in that grant application for $16.4 million. We have on the upcoming agenda to bring a resolution of support for the first October meeting for that grant funding.
Thank you for a very thorough presentation. We will now open it up for public comment on this item.
Certainly,
Mr.
Mayor.
Stigler.
Mayor Newsom, we have received a total of 11 requests to speak so far. If you're participating in chambers and wish to speak on this item, please provide me with a request to speak slip. We will be calling the name of the last speaker, so we invite you to do so now. If you're participating in our virtual environment, please raise your hand. As mentioned, we will be naming the last speaker. Mayor Newsom, that is a total of 17 requests to speak on this item. That would set the time limit at 2 minutes per speaker. And in our virtual environment, or in person, our final speaker will be Susan Mannheimer. And in our virtual environment, our final speaker will be Mike Swire. So to ensure we get through all of your public comments expeditiously, when I call your name, if you could please line up to my right, that would be greatly appreciated. We will be starting with our first three speakers, which will be Kevin Simpson, followed by Brendan Shi, and Tom Shi.
Thank you, Honorable Council. Thanks for the opportunity to speak. No thanks for not having cake. Singing is great, but there should be cake. We got kids. We should have cake. I just want to say that was a masterclass of a presentation. This project has so many benefits for our community. And I just want to remind you that it's not just about bicycles. It's not just about parking. It's about relieving lots and lots of really hairy, buggy problems. Just the improvements of that gas station, which I love and frequent, but grit my teeth every time I have to go anywhere near it, are great. I also use that corridor on 19th Avenue on down to Norfolk all the time to cut over to Fashion Island, not to avoid highway traffic, but because that's the only way to get there. And that intersection can be a nightmare as well. I also want to just remind everybody that Mark Creamer died just in that area in a place where there isn't an adequate sidewalk. And we really need to keep our eyes on what's important. Unlocking opportunities for people to safely access all parts of our city, to travel back and forth to schools, to shopping centers, to recreational facilities, and yes, to get gas without having to worry that today is their day, that their number's going to come up. And that's what this is all about. So you may hear some special interest terms being flung around by people, or ludicrous numbers about data that someone who maybe has an axe to grind wants to put in front of you. Keep your eyes on the ball, please. This is a great project. It's extremely well designed from what I saw, and we ought to be going full bore to put everything behind our opportunity to connect all these parts of our city in a much better way in all modes. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next three speakers will be Brendan Shi, followed by Tom Shi and Andrew Uto Oko.
Hello, today I will be talking about my experiences with riding my bike to and from places and how it isn't safe for bikers. Riding to school so close to fast cars is really dangerous. Or maybe I want to go to fencing. There are very few safe or dedicated bike lanes. Recently, a lot of cars have been speeding very close to me and my friends. If we are turning, cars push past us and nearly hit us. A lot of the time, cars also go into the bike lane, if there is one, and it cuts us off, so we have to ride on the street or go onto the sidewalk. And most of the time, there's no good place to go up because the curb is too high. And there are also people walking on the sidewalk. People don't understand how many bikers there really are, and that drivers should be more careful. Because a lot of drivers have come close to hitting me and my friends. Biking is really important for me and a lot of the kids because that's how me and a lot of other kids are gaining independence. We get to learn road safety too. Being able to ride my bike makes it so that I can see my friends if we want to hang out, and I'm on my computer less too. I can go to the store to help with shopping, and I don't have to wait for my parents to drive me anywhere because I can just bike. This past year, I've had the chance to visit China, and I was really surprised how cities in Asia took care of their bikers and scooter riders and gave them lanes that were protected from cars. Why is it so hard to do that here? I heard that most of the projects were basically free. 75% is paid by the state. And we get a safe way to get to school, so I'm confused why this is such a hard choice. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Our next speaker will be Tom Shi, followed by Andrew Uto Oko and Rick Sakuda.
I just wanted to say thank you again. That was an amazing presentation. That information was really great. I hope that everyone sort of takes it in and passes it around if possible. I came here to support my son commenting and to support my community. I am, in as many ways possible, a user of all of those spaces that we talked about, as a biker, as a driver, as a parent, as a commuter, and I'm constantly amazed that we are existing without more conflict for that congestion and that amount of space. Ultimately, the reality of where we live, it's a great place to live, is that we are experiencing a lot of growth. The density with which we're experiencing that growth continues to grow, and it's a reality of life. So I love that. I think it makes San Mateo, an even more attractive and viable place to live, to grow a family. But what that also comes with is significant investments in infrastructure. So part of my commentary here is to really support the goals of this project, and that I really hope that we can stick to those core elements, continue to incorporate comments and feedback in order to align with those goals, because I do believe in that. I believe in the objectives that we've laid out, and I hope that we can continue to make those adjustments and stay true to those goals, because ultimately, I think that's what's really going to benefit the community at large. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next three speakers will be Andrew Utuoko, followed by Rick Sakuda and Tasso Zagrafis.
Good evening, council members. My name is Andrew. I have been a resident of San Mateo for 9 years. I live in the Fiesta Gardens neighborhood. I go to Parkside Montessori. Every day I ride to school on the 19th and Norfolk intersections. The most chaotic areas around the 19th and Norfolk intersections. Cars often don't pay attention to cyclists, and there are times when cars will go into the bike lane. I am a big advocate for this new bike lane because it'll be safe and efficient for riders. That is all, council members.
Thank you. Our next three speakers will be Rick Sakuda, followed by Tasso Zagrafis and Maya Mo.
Good evening. First, I've never heard anything from the community anyone from the community who's against bicycles or safety. I just wanted to start with that, but this is a huge project and there's no way to gather feedback on all the nuances of this entire project tonight. So just as a community, we have been working with staff who've been very generous with us, and we wish to continue working with staff and city council to gain a better understanding of the project as a whole. In general terms, 19th Avenue is the most widely congested area in San Mateo. I think Alex will back me up on that. And our community on the east side has been promised relief and improvements, and that keeps getting kicked down the road. So the people on the east side are very frustrated and feeling disenfranchised. And I said I don't want to get into the nuance, but because of the presentation that was made, I did want to point out one thing, is there are a lot of nice improvements that are slated for 19th and Norfolk, which is the choke point. But also there are some changes that will make it worse there. Right now, there are 3 crosswalks at Norfolk. There's a reason for that, because that allows for more traffic flow, and in my opinion, it makes it safer, not having that 4th crosswalk there. That allows for a lot of left and right turns to be made. So adding that in, I think, is a significant change that we need to look at. Additionally, changing the contour of the curb when you make a right turn and adding a bicycle island in the middle of that turn, I think doesn't make any sense to me. And so we've discussed that with staff, and we still need to come to some agreement on that. But I feel that some of those changes are not beneficial, and we need to look at that carefully. But let's not make any of the mistakes that we've made in the past on some of these projects where we've rushed ahead without community input and regretted it in the end. So let's get the data for this project and do it properly.
Thank you. Our next three speakers will be Tasso Zagrafis, followed by Maya Mulk and Henry Adams.
First off, I want to commend these young kids, children, for young adults for coming up to speak. It's not an easy thing to do in front of this scary city council. So I applaud you. I hope that shared bike lanes aren't deemed unsafe, because then if they are, meaning that the only safe bike lanes are those that are protected bike lanes and shared bike lanes are unsafe, that we should remove them all in the city if that is the case. As you consider this project, I want to stress that any plan must be grounded in real comprehensive data. I think Bethany did a great job. But if I had to provide some comment, and what I observed is there was great streetlight data on the traffic and the probe data where traffic was moving, but I saw no data in regards to bike usage along that corridor. And if we can, I'd like to be able to get some bike usage data. I did see the IDEX data, and it showed basically that in the morning hours, there were 0.7% bike usage compared to cars. And in the afternoon, it was 0.4% in the afternoon. And that's just for a segment of time in the morning and one day, and a segment of time in the afternoon on another day. So that means that 99% of the usage of that corridor is vehicles. And with all the development that's going to happen in that area, if you consider the Fish Market, Concar, the Marriott site, and Bridgepoint, it's only going to get worse. So a lot of our priority, I think, should be on planning for the increased traffic. And what we're going to do is I'm going to look at some of the, I've already talked to some of the industrial sites there, and they're willing to provide cameras. So we'll try to collect some data as well and see if we can help.
Thank you
on that. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next three speakers will be Maya Mulk, followed by Henry Adams and Kevin Milhone.
Hello, everyone. My name is Maya Mock. I am a 13-year-old who enjoys biking, and I also run on multiple occasions. First of all, I want to thank Ms. Lopez for all her hard work. The design, I think, will be very beneficial to the community. I especially loved the buffers and the green area zones around the intersection. However, second of all, as a person who bikes multiple times, I have seen a lot of consequences around surrounding my community where drivers, though they may not intend to, will not notice that the pedestrians or perhaps bicyclists are on the street. And so I propose that perhaps we could use LEDs and PIR motion sensors in order to show and alert the drivers that they are there. I was thinking perhaps they could be on the surrounding the green boxes or on the concrete barriers where they would have PIR motion sensors that would sense these cars passing by and then perhaps would alert green LEDs to shoot up and show the people. I was thinking it could be similar to what we have in San Mateo downtown, but it would be automatic since sometimes bicyclists, well, they're bicycling, they can't use their hands to push the buttons. I made a small graph yesterday of what perhaps it could look like, where there is the green lines over here and they shoot up when the person walks by. I think that this would be really beneficial to the community and the safety of our environment. I'm really excited to see how this turns out, and I am more than happy to, I would really like to try to, help with this project. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Our next three speakers will be Henry Adams, followed by Kevin Milhone and Michael Reagan.
Hello, I'm Henry Adams.
Hi, I'm Shom Adams, and I go to Parkside.
Hi, I'm Takuma Adams, and I go to Parkside.
They're here for my moral support. So I'm their parent, their father, and the three of us bike to school every morning and bike home every afternoon. And I actually want to look at this from a driver's perspective because I'm also a person. We live in the Fiesta Gardens neighborhood, and I drive up and down that 19th Avenue regularly. And to me, one of the things that makes me nervous, I'm a cyclist, and I have to merge into the turn lane because there's not a proper cycle route to get through the Norfolk and 19th Avenue intersection. So I and many of the cyclists, including my son, will merge into the lane with the cars because there's not a proper protected bike lane for us. And so I think that actually this project is excellent because it creates a clear demarcation between bicycle traffic and automobile traffic. And I think that it'll lead to actually less annoyance and a safer time for cyclists, but also easier time for automobile drivers as well. I think these developments are really important for our community equity as well. We have excellent schools. Parkside is not our designated neighborhood school, but we're delighted to be able to send our children there, and they're able to get there on their bicycles. And we have an older son who also bikes to Hillsdale now. So with 2 parents and 3 kids, it's impossible for us to get everybody to school with us driving them. And so the fact that they can cycle to school makes it possible for us to live in this community. And I hope that we can continue to make that possible for people across the community. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. Our next three speakers will be Kevin Milhone, followed by Michael Reagan and Rich Hedges.
Hello, my name is Kevin. I'm here as a bicycle commuter. I take this route every day. This is probably the most dangerous part of my route every day, specifically eastbound in the morning over the two bridges and before that from Grant. Drivers do not respect the red curbed bike lane. I have repeatedly had to dodge around cars that have pulled over and stopped in the bike lane to check their phone, be they delivery drivers or DoorDash or Uber or Lyft. I've had to dodge cars going up over both of the bridges, specifically in the morning, with the sun in the driver's eyes coming up over those bridges. It is incredibly dangerous the way it is right now. So anything would be an improvement over the existing infrastructure. And yes, the reason you don't see more bicyclists is because I've been doing this for 10 years, and this is probably the most dangerous bicycle commute I've had in the Bay Area. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Our next three speakers will be Michael Reagan, followed by Rich Hedges and Seema Patel.
Evening. I want to thank Alex, the manager in Public Works. Last Monday, we had a meeting with the public, and I think a lot of good dialogue was on both sides was given. I'm here also representing Beresford Hillsdale Neighborhood Association, current president, and my concern is that this dialogue that's going on right now in our neighborhood, soon there will be this type of projects on Alameda and other projects. So we want to be, I want to emphasize the fact that I think it's important that you listen to the citizens that live in the community. This project, as you mentioned, is very expensive. It's a one-shot deal, and this is very difficult. I've lived in Fiesta Gardens, and I work all through that area. This is probably one of the most difficult kind of construction jobs with this particular route that you guys are going to be up against. And I think it's very important that you listen to the residents, the people that live there that have to drive through every day. It's very important what you guys do as far as Public Works, putting together all these different surveys and type of things. But the people that live there, this is a one-shot deal, and I think that you guys really need to think this one through. And I think because of all the building that's going to have coming in the future, this corridor is going to be a very important corridor. And I think that if you work with the group, they have some excellent ideas. And Public Works we have an excellent Public Works department. So I think the two of them can come to something that in the future will be something we can all be proud of. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next three speakers will be Rich Hedges, followed by Seema Patel and Susan Mannheimer.
Good evening, Mayor Newsom and City Council members. It's nice to see you tonight. First of all, I want to thank Bethany and also Matt and Alex for facilitating the meetings we've had with them. And this is a good project tonight that you put forward. I'm very much in favor of the bike lanes, but I'm also very much in favor of traffic mitigation on 19th Avenue and Norfolk. In any context, it's dangerous there for pedestrians, for bikers, and to some extent, even though they're more protected for automobile drivers. So we've been given some peeks under what would happen at 19th and Norfolk, which is actually the choke point for the backup of the traffic all the way across that particular traffic way. And so we're looking at a dual lane for the left-hand turn lane, one straight forward, and then the right-hand turn lane. One of the things that was not discussed tonight, which was discussed at our last meeting, was the possibility of getting more storage space for right-hand turners, which I think is very important. The big choke point now is you get back about 6 to 7 cars, and no one can team up to go left or right. So that puts all those drivers all the way back to Grant. I want to talk about some things that we've done here to make this possible. Our community raised $250,000 for this intersection through the Pulte development. That's been added to the money for the bike lanes. There's a chance this may not go forward if we don't get funding. I want that money placed back in a position where we can recap it for traffic mitigation on 19th and Norfolk in the future. Community efforts to raise money should not be ignored. And so a couple of things I can bring up just quickly are my concerns. My concerns about those bike lanes from Delaware to Grant and then the bike lanes going west, people are going to have to cross catty corner to cross there to get to the other bike lanes. We should have a on-demand scramble for the bikers and pedestrians there. It's very important for the safety. Have more at another meeting.
Our next two speakers will be Seema Patel, followed by Susan Meinheimer.
Good evening, City Council. I currently serve on the Planning Commission, but I'm speaking tonight on my own behalf. First, I want to thank Bethany and Public Works for an amazing presentation and for all the work that's gone into the design. This is a super complicated project, and I think the complexity and the thoughtfulness that's gone into the design really shows through in the presentation. This is a fantastic project. We're talking about spending $1.5 million of city funds to get a $25.5 million project built. That's an amazing ROI. And I'm just really glad that we have this opportunity, especially to address a section of our city that is on the CEQA countywide youth-based high injury network, that is on the county's bike high injury network, and that's the number 5 priority intersection on our local roadway safety plan. So this is a great way to tackle a section of our city that has been hugely problematic. I think it has been explained that there is no grant funding available for just widening roadways, and it's not possible to widen the roadway in this area because of the structural support columns to the overhead bridge. So really, the decision that is faced before us today is to do this project and get the congestion improvements that come with it, or to do nothing. And I don't really think that doing nothing is a good option for our community. I think the other thing I would encourage you to consider is with the passage of SB 79, the area around those 2 Caltrain stations is now effectively upzoned to 120 or 100 units an acre. So we can expect a lot of development in this area in the future, and we can't widen the roadway. So our only thing that we can do to address future growth is to make it safer for bicyclists and pedestrians to use their feet or to use their bikes instead of using their cars. Otherwise, we can just expect the congestion here to get worse and worse. Thank you.
Thank you. And our final speaker in chambers will be Susan Mannheimer.
Hi, good evening, Council, and to staff and City Manager. Thank you so much for your time. You've spent a lot of time with us, been very transparent, and we appreciate this. I want to ground this for a moment in the 7 different neighborhood communities that have been meeting and are very concerned about this project. I also want to speak as a 20-year retired police chief that used to have to stage police officers on the east side of the freeway just to get some response over to the east side. Also to speak about the fire department, as well as the emergency access for everything on the east side. For a very long time now, and as a 10-year resident of the east side, we have been promised and have supported development and retail and embraced it because we believe that the city would come through with congestion relief management. Now we hear that that potential for capacity of even widening the road is now going to be dedicated to bike lanes. And we are concerned that we are chasing money because it's free, even though it's taxpayer money. There are things you have not heard here tonight that are very concerning to us. I've sent to you all, and we've shared with Alex and Public Works and staff, and I'll give you another copy now. Thank you so much, of 5 or 7 things that we think are absolute dangers in this project that actually could cause more congestion than they would relieve it. We want to support this project. We are all about bike safety, pedestrian safety, multimodal use. However, when we do hear that the city is considering actually inducing some congestion to discourage cut-through traffic, I have to say that we have to look at the data. 83% are actually those of us who have to get and live, work, play, recreate on the east side of San Mateo, and we can no longer wait for an hour in traffic. We do not want diversion through Fiesta Gardens. We are really concerned that that right turn on red is something that's a non-starter for us completely. And we ask you to look at all those points and work them out with us so we can support this. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Thanks. Moving to our virtual environment where our first speaker will be Annie Tsai. Annie, please go ahead and unmute your mic.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak in favor of this project. I am a resident of Fiesta Gardens and find this to be a well thought out complete streets proposal with material grant funding leverage, and that makes it a pretty attractive project. I ride this corridor almost every weekday with my kids, 4 and 12, and during traffic, cycling is up to twice as fast as sitting in traffic. In the mornings, the peak congestion bottlenecks are in primarily on Norfolk heading north, actually, due to the stop sign at Roberta and Norfolk, because everyone's trying to get their kids to Parkside and Bayside. And then in the afternoons down 19th Fashion Island, as Ms. Lopez noted in the presentation. But I think people don't really talk enough about who is using the passage. Every time I use 19th, which is every day almost, a majority of the people who are crossing that I see on the road who are not in vehicles are youth, seniors, and people of color. Seniors are almost always riding on the sidewalk as well, and I think that's important to call out because the bike lanes are pretty bumpy and it's regular that vehicles are stopped in the bike lane for a number of reasons, as others have noted. This is pretty concerning as it's really important. It's a really important corridor to provide safe passage for all. There's also a concentration of magnet schools in this area, and they have a much higher percentage of non-in-neighborhood students, and so it makes sense that ridership is higher in this corridor. Bayside's bike racks are full every day. You can drive by and see them on any day, and they are full. Parkside recently had to add more bike racks, which are now full again, and College Park parents are riding into Fiesta Gardens where I live. So protected bike lanes will both support growing ridership, but without protected bike lanes, growing ridership will only mean more opportunity for collisions as tensions increase on the road with the increased ridership. I am not an avid cyclist by any measure, and that's also kind of the point. Protected bike lanes
Thank
make
you,
casual
Annie.
riders.
Thank you, Annie. Your time is up. Our next speaker will be Anna Liet.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. Well, thank you, City Council, for the opportunity to speak. And thank you so much to the Planning Department for that presentation. I'm a resident of San Mateo. I get around our city by walking, biking, and driving. And I agree with some of the previous speakers that this project is a very positive change for our community. Please move forward and continue to prioritize the safety of pedestrians, cyclists, and other non-motorists. I personally have ridden this corridor to access Target and other destinations in Foster City, and also as part of my commute to work. Even as a very experienced cyclist, I find several of the intersections along this route terrifying. Providing protected bike lanes and intersection modifications are vital to ensuring that cyclists and other non-motorists feel safe. If more people feel safe, more people will be ready to get out of cars. The more people get out of cars, the less congestion there will be. This trend is supported by data. For example, The Economist recently reported on a city that has engineered a 70% increase in cycling over the last 7 years. Trips by bike are now as common as single occupancy vehicle trips. A corresponding decline in vehicle trips suggests that many of the bike trips have in fact replaced vehicle trips. The city's thoughtful and thorough investments in safe and accessible bike infrastructure help set the stage for this change. We heard earlier this evening that people would not be willing to ride bikes if it's raining or if it's dark outside. But the data I just mentioned suggests quite a different story. That city is London. If people are willing to cycle regularly in mist and rain, where winter days are less than 8 hours long, I believe many more people would be willing to cycle here in beautiful San Mateo if only they had safe options to do so. Given our growth trajectory, increasing the share of trips outside of single occupancy vehicles is the only option we have in our community to reduce congestion over the long term. Lastly, I want us to think about the cost of a few extra seconds of minutes of waiting in traffic versus the cost of a serious injury of death within our community. These are very different things. Please do not lose sight of this. Safety should be our highest priority design goal. Please have the vision and courage to move forward with these improvements. They're incredibly important for our community. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Our next speaker will be Marvette. Marvette, please go ahead and unmute your mic.
Thank you very much. This was a really helpful and informative presentation. I'm a 28-year resident of San Mateo, and I live in Fiesta Gardens and very supportive of this project. There are several places along this corridor where the bike lane ends, as many have said, and the cars and the bikes are jockeying for space. One of my questions is how to make it safer for bikes around the on and off ramps from 101 to Fiesta Garden the 19th. I didn't exactly see that in the plan, so it'd be great to see that called out on one of the next community proposal or community opportunities to look at this. I'd just like to see if the on and off ramps will have any solution to protect or to maintain bike lanes around those on and off ramps, because I do see that as one of the kind of most dangerous intersections around there. And also really supportive of the kind of trying to address the safety concerns around that intersection at Delaware 19th around the gas station. Certainly addresses the safety concerns I see and the congestion we often face coming into the neighborhood in Fiesta Gardens. So thank you.
Thank you. And our final speaker will be Mike Swire.
Yeah, hi. Thanks so much to Mayor Newsom and to the council, and thank you for Bethany and staff for all the great work. You guys are on fire. This and the Delaware project are excellent. Calling in wholehearted support of the what is an excellent project. I had a meeting with Kevin Mullen in his office a couple weeks ago, and they were very jazzed about this. I thank them for not only getting as much federal funding as they could, which is quite amazing given the current administration is quite hostile to active transportation, but he actually called it out in his newsletter saying this project will increase safety and accessibility by constructing a new 1.3 mile long separated bikeway connecting the Hayward Park Health train station and businesses in the area and improving 4 intersections for pedestrian access. So thank you to the congressman for that. This is obviously a very important area, as people have pointed out, with the crossings of 101. We recently lost a person on a bike in San Carlos due to an unsafe crossing, and we were supposed to get a Hillsdale bike and pedestrian bridge. It's been in discussion for 20 years, and now that project is nowhere, so this is a solution. Very excited that this ARCO thing is going to be addressed, which is a disaster. I want to make sure that the delay figures that were quoted include any diversion in traffic, because traffic will not be static. And then finally, I wanted to make sure that the proposal on reducing number of crosswalks in some areas, that is just a terrible idea. As somebody who's had to cross El Camino and had to take 4 minutes actually to get around 3 ways instead of having 1 way of crossing, I reject that idea. The problem is we have too many cars, and there's nothing we can do about it besides trying to get people onto other modes of transportation. If the cut through traffic isn't bad now, it will only get worse as you make more space available. It's a problem that cannot be solved. Thanks so much.
Thank you. And Mayor Newsom, with that concludes public comment.
All right. Thank you everyone for your public comment. Great to see so many young people out speaking their minds, and great participation tonight. So we're going to go ahead and take it for questions, comments, and a motion eventually from the council. Who would like to go first? Okay, Councilmember Diaz-Nash. Thank you.
I'd like to first off start by saying thank you to the community, people who are here tonight, people who participated in the survey, people who participated in the community meetings. This is just the beginning of community input. And that's one thing I know staff believes, but I want to underline, triple underline, quadruple underline, because we're very early in the project. And I would imagine there are going to be suggestions that come out of the community that will be really positively received, or we'll get data like everybody was asking for. So I'm interested, and I guess the one thing I would say at this point, I think one of our commenters said it better than I could have, that we need to support the goals of this project. We also need to evolve the project based on community input while staying true to the goals. So I think that's the tension, but also the opportunity. I look at some of the things that, where are we? That, I guess I'm not living in this area, but traveling there a lot. This is not, in my mind, either a bike lane project or a congestion project. This is a let's look at everything that's happening here project. And I think that was something that another community member mentioned. I think that's important to stay ahead on. Also, I've got all these notes about listen to the community. So I'll just say that and underline it 5 times. But I also appreciate that staff is trying to address this on a corridor-wide perspective, because too often we do a little bit of a project and a little bit of a project. So I really appreciate that it's a corridor-wide approach. And I really appreciate the fact that you're bringing people in the early design stage, because things can change and things will change. So I encourage the community to keep coming up with the specific suggestions that we saw both in email. Susan Mannheimer mentioned them. Michael Reagan mentioned them. Laura Wood was a commenter. She had a lot of very specific suggestions that I think we should take a look at. But I do think that it's a combination of where do we want to go with what's the reality today. So I would encourage all of us to stay very engaged in this project, to go to the community meetings, but also to think about where we want to get to. And I know that city staff is going to bring in a lot of data that you don't have right now. You know, what's going to be the impact of the future developments? What's going to happen with the school changes? I would encourage us to really work closely with the school district and make sure that they are delivering the data we need to know, because we can't build that project without that input. But I also love that Maya came up with the suggestion of having the road sensors. That was fantastic. And you were living that experience. So I think there's a lot of good opportunity here. There's going to be a lot of bumps along the way, but I think this is a very exciting project. And the fact that we have an opportunity to totally transform this area, I think we all need to stick together and make sure it happens. So that was more my overall things I wanted to bring up rather than a lot of specific questions. But have fortitude, don't give up. And Bethany and team, thank you very much.
Deputy Mayor.
Thank you through the mayor. Bethany, thank you very much for this presentation. I enjoyed it very much. And frankly, I really feel that this is something of a historic night in our city. I really do, because this is what traffic and circulation improvements are beginning to look like in our city. And hopefully will continue in the future. This is multimodal improvements, improvements for everyone who currently uses this thoroughfare, because cars, bikes, and peds all currently use this thoroughfare. And it's an investment in our future. But before I go too far afield, I did have a couple quick questions. I was curious if we could maybe take a look back at the new maneuver at the gas station, because frankly, I think I would just like to hear a little more about what exactly is being proposed. It kind of looked like, I don't know if it was a stop sign or a separate signal. Could you maybe just elaborate a little on how we're planning to negotiate gas station traffic with those bike lanes that are going to be there?
Yes, I might need a hand pulling that up again. All right. I'm going to scroll back here. So this is what you're looking for?
Yeah, well, yes, please.
So what we're proposing here is a new median. And the primary thing that we're hoping that this median can do right in this area is to help address a lot of the traffic collisions that are occurring here. We are shifting all of the existing movements up, and that's the space that these are currently occupying. That's currently just not utilized space. And what we're doing with this additional space, not only implementing the two-way bike facility through here, but also maintaining a dedicated lane for anybody coming eastbound, either from 19th Avenue. So there's a one-way currently that comes from Pacific Avenue all the way through. So we're maintaining access for those folks, as well as trying to maintain access for the gas station to come for exiting people coming out of the gas station. And so this is a new maneuver or a new movement, a new dedicated movement that we're looking to accommodate at the intersection. So again, this is that widening, and then this is that maneuver. Again, a new signal. This would get its own signal essentially, so that people coming out of this area would be able to get their own dedicated time, red, green, yellow, red sort of situation where there wouldn't be conflicts with other movements.
And is that, so that looks like it's at Delaware, like once the cars get to the intersection of Delaware and 19th, is that right?
Yes, in the eastbound direction. Yes, once they're at the intersection. That's
Okay.
correct.
Is there anything related to that occurring, like as people are planning to exit potentially the Arco gas station onto 19th?
Onto 19th, so in this area?
I guess like maybe a little farther east there. Yeah.
Here?
Yeah.
This is the existing driveway.
Yes.
So what will be accommodated is still a right turn maneuver coming out of the gas station. So the gas station folks will still be able to exit there. We can't actually just close any of these driveways, so we still need to accommodate it. And that's what we're looking to do here. But we are looking to try to minimize some of the conflicts with a lot of the folks coming off of the freeway. And so that will help restrict some of those conflicts.
Thank you. I agree that will help. And so just for the record, because I know we're asking for a few different types of feedback, I do see value in what's being proposed on that side. I guess I'll admit I'm a little concerned about the other side, that southbound side, I guess, or I don't know, not southbound is probably not the right term, but we were just talking about it. So I guess, and in fact, we were seeing, if I recall correctly, in the traffic simulation, that it was kind of getting its own. It had some action there, and I look forward to monitoring that to see what if anything more we might be able to do if we feel like that might be a concern for safety, as that's effectively a new bike lane there. Okay. And I was just a little curious if we might be able to take a look back at Norfolk and Fashion Island, that intersection. I guess you noted one of the changes being proposed is a lane swap as people continue eastbound onto the Seal Slough Bridge. And as someone who finds himself leaving Foster City toward this general direction on that bridge westbound on a bike, I was curious. I seem to recall, as we're looking at this slide, there are two lanes right now, one of which is turning right onto Norfolk for cars, and another that's straight or left. And does that change?
You're talking about these lanes here?
Yes.
Yeah, we are currently, that's part of the traffic analysis that we're doing right now. So I believe this is what's currently proposed with the latest traffic analysis that we have. And I may not have mentioned it very explicitly, but the traffic analysis and the way that the intersection is designed is an iterative process. And so as we make findings for what we're proposing, we might go back and refine the design to see if we can gain more space, because we can see that we require longer turn pockets or something along those lines. And so this is our current iteration of the traffic analysis. We've ran through about 8 different scenarios for the intersection. So this isn't the only one that we've seen. This is the best one that we have so far. And again, we're looking to make some of those tweaks to get it to be the best that it can be.
That sounds great. And I have full trust that indeed we will continue to work on making this the best it can be. And I'm sort of noticing as we look more on this slide that it seems like the proposed method for bikes to navigate this westbound is no longer like in a car lane going straight, but rather kind of negotiating through the green square there and taking this sort of dedicated right turn lane, but maybe continuing to navigate through the hashed path and then continuing kind of like through, like in parallel with crosswalk and then continuing onward.
Sorry, was that a question? That is correct. The way that you're describing that, that is what's being proposed here. We are still evaluating the potential to add bike signals through here. So one of the main things that requires is that you have dedicated bike or dedicated right turn lanes. And so if you have a shared through right lane, because sorry to get into the weeds here, but in order to have a bike signal, you have to keep right turn vehicles from crossing over the bike lanes, if that makes sense. And so you can only do that when you have a dedicated right turn lane. If you have it shared with the through lane and you try to give it a red light, you get a lot of like conflicting challenges there. And so that's part of one of the reasons why we're proposing this right turn lane here, is to be able to consider that bike signal here.
Thank you very much for that. Okay, those were the questions I happen to have at the moment. I think before I lose track, I do just want to quickly try to give the feedback that was requested. And I think like with regard to 19th Delaware, the State Route 92 eastbound ramps, I think the proposal looks good to me. We talked about that in the previous question, in the previous slide. With regard to Norfolk Fashion Island, we're on the slide. Overall, I feel pretty good. I know we got some comments about the additional crosswalk. And so at this moment, I think let's just continue to look at it and make sure that we are not, inadvertently adversely impacting car traffic as a result of the addition. But at the moment, my inclination would be that adding a crosswalk, as other commenters mentioned, would be overall helpful for flow and ease of use and convenience. With regard to outreach, I think Councilmember Diaz-Nash mentioned, that at least I think like hinted at the breadth, and this has been pretty robust to date. I appreciate having, just multiple opportunities for folks to get involved and give input that can still make an impact on the project. We've had a commission meeting with Sustainability and Infrastructure, met with staff, and I understand many residents have had opportunities to meet with staff in addition to the larger neighborhood meetings. So it seems to me like we're on the right track. And I agree that we need to listen to residents who live in the area. And I think Councilmember Diaz-Nash actually put it very well. I would agree that we need to take in that data, get those inputs when they can be impactful, while we continue to look for the goals of the project and make sure that we keep those highest in mind and see where there's synergy. And to me, I feel like that's where I felt we are on the Delaware Safe Routes to Streets program, that project, which is a potential connector here. And I have, I appreciated hearing from members of the community. I'm optimistic that I feel like we're on the right track with this project as well. I'm comfortable that our staff is keeping an eye on data after this presentation for cars, bicycles, and pedestrians. And there's been some comments on bike data, and I just think it's important to mention that when it comes to bike data, just to keep it on a high level, here's what I think we need to remember. The current numbers percentage-wise are very low, yes. And we know why, because if you try writing it, it's not fun, it's not safe, it's hard, and it's not complete, and it doesn't connect it very much. So it's not surprising that the numbers are low. right now. And yes, as we discussed a little bit during the Delaware project item, they won't necessarily skyrocket as a result of this particular project or any particular single project. But we know that some people currently use it, including children and youth who are going to school. And as Kevin Simpson mentioned in our last item, and I forgot to highlight, those people need protection. That's important. We already have people using this right now. We already have bike lanes on this thoroughfare right now. And people are buying electric bikes and various other types of e-vehicles, as highlighted by our police department in an awesome presentation earlier. And they're out there and they're getting out on the road. And so those people deserve protection too. So that's important. And of course, we know that we're trying to increase our percentage of bicyclists and pedestrians. We saw some statistics in the presentation about how many short trips are happening in this thoroughfare. And to me, that says multiple things. It says that people in the neighborhood are using it, and they're using it for short trips. And so if we could possibly get some of those people, not everybody, but a few percent would make a difference to consider taking something other than their car for short trips when they can. That's congestion relief. That is helping, and that is an investment in our future as we consider these larger development projects. One of the biggest potential congestion relief opportunities in this project is allowing for people who might consider taking those short trips to take them via bicycle or pedestrian or transit, as we didn't get to mention a whole lot. So that's almost enough for me. We have an opportunity to make this thoroughfare better for cars because we're also looking to make this a complete street for bikes and pedestrians too. It's a tremendous bang for our bucks, and I just think it's an amazing opportunity. I did want to mention before I forgot that I'm comfortable with the 2-track to 1-track idea for bikes, and I'll just anecdotally was not very familiar with it personally until the Burlingame California Drive project occurred. And I remember when they were talking about that project. And as a resident in the area, I sort of looked at it and thought, I don't know. I don't know if I want to stop and then go across the street and then go. Maybe I'll just keep on going and I won't care. I got used to it really quickly. And now I don't even think about it. And it takes one moment and I just stop at one side and I cross when it's green and it's no problem. And the resulting safety from a protected bike lane is very much worth it. And that's a great project. And so I'm looking forward to joining fellow cities who have been making those kinds of significant infrastructure investments. I think that's enough. Thank you.
Okay, I guess I'm up. Great presentation. Overall, I'm in favor of this project. I do want to have, go through some questions and some concerns, so I'll just go right at it. I want to make sure that as we look at all these future developments, the Fish Market, Concar, the Marriott, Corporate Commons project, and Passage project, that we are trying to use the software to look retrospectively at it and think, okay, if there's 15% more traffic, what does that look like? If there's 20% more local traffic, what does that look like? I know you guys are data driven and I really do appreciate that. And I see that in your presentations. I just want to make sure that I continue to reiterate that while right now, 1.5% or 2% are using, that mode of transit as cycling, the balance are not. And the hope obviously here is that if we can get a better, more thorough connective thoroughfare, that people will be comfortable using bikes. I've lived in the Sunnybray neighborhood now for almost 30 years. And as an adult and a person who's biked my entire youth, I get nervous riding through that corridor. So the parents have left, but I do feel for the parents. In fact, I never let my children, who are now 15 and 17, ride through that corridor. And that's horrible. Like, I'd love for them to be able to ride and feel safe riding their bikes to Bridgepoint. They're girls. They like to go to the mall. And we've got, a great arcade there. We've got a lot of entertainment and restaurants. So I really think it's important that we fix the problem. And I think that's what this is doing. But I also want to make sure that we don't, this is a mixed modal transit solution. It's got to be focused on being right for the cyclists. It's got to be focused right on being right for the pedestrians. It's got to be focused right on car traffic. And hopefully if we solve for all of those, we'll see people using more alternatives. I didn't see any data, and we don't need to tonight, but it would be helpful for the next time we have this come back to kind of get an understanding of what the bus transit lines look like from an east to west and north to south through, either intersecting this or going actually through this corridor. So that would be helpful. I've talked a lot this weekend and today to my Fiesta Gardens constituents and neighbors. There is some concern, and I think we're doing this already, but actually I think you said maybe we haven't really completely reached out to the school district. But I would like to find out if there are more people using cars to College Park now that College Park has switched places with Fiesta Gardens. There's also been a rumbling from the Fiesta Gardens Neighborhood Association told me that they're talking about potentially reopening for some of the other older classes, the 19th Avenue entrance to Fiesta Gardens. I think that would be horrible because it would really kind of put a mess into this data that we've been doing through a corridor. So ideally, they wouldn't do that, but we have to make it feasible for them not to do that. The other concern I've heard a lot from Fiesta Gardens is between, and I've heard people tell me this is Genevieve and also Grant, but from where Grant intersects into, I don't know if it becomes Genevieve and then right on Bermuda, but there's concern that if we tighten up on the traffic here, that people are going to be pushing into Fiesta Gardens. And one of the things we talked about, I think last meeting, was that we want to make sure that Bermuda is safe and that it's a safe tie-in for kids biking to school down Bermuda. So we want to make sure that as we do this, we're not impacting, we're not cutting off our nose to save our face, right? We're not pushing the traffic further into Fiesta Gardens. We want to make sure we address it and keep the traffic as much as possible on the 19th Avenue corridor, with still hitting our goals of putting better bike safety there too. I've heard people mention that there, and I didn't see this in the slides, but there was a potential to making no right turn on Norfolk. Is that true?
That is true. There's other safety improvements that we're proposing there. There's a feature called a right turn overlap that you'll see. We've proposed this at 3rd and Norfolk. What this is when vehicles are making a left turn, sorry, I'm gonna have to use my hands. When people are making a left turn, or maybe for you guys, making a left turn, there's a green light for people turning right turn, making a right turn in the opposing direction. So this is northbound left, and we can have traffic move for eastbound right with a dedicated green light. And so what we actually see in the data already is that there's a 40-second decrease in the right turn delay for the eastbound movement, even with this no right on red, just by allowing that new green light for that right turn movement. And that's in the afternoon period. So we're already seeing, even with that, a significant decrease in delays.
In that intersection, which looks harrowing, do we have bike boxes for kids and adults, people like bicyclists who want to go right or left? Do we have bike boxes in place, or is it going to be that they're going to cross and then have to kind of cross again with traffic?
Yeah, the way that we're currently proposing it is as what's called a protected intersection. And so rather than having folks have to shift in front of the lanes, it's not to say that they can't do that, but it provides a protected path around the intersection for them to be able to do that. Again, folks are able to make those maneuvers in the lane if they choose.
Okay. Going through all these comments are collected. like I thought Maya's idea of using technology was great. I think Maya might have a future here as a summer intern, and maybe a career in city planning is in her future. But I think it would be great to, oh, and here we have Maya's design. Oh, wow. Way to go, Maya. Okay, we're going to have to look at this with more in depth because Maya's done a great job. But how do we enforce, for example, places like Delaware Street and 19th, that we don't have people blocking the intersections as they do in larger cities like, and even smaller cities? We see that in Redwood City. We see that in San Francisco. How are we going to step up to make sure that that's not a problem?
Yeah, I mean, there's certainly basic things like signage that you can install. There's some of them that use, things like adding the dollar amount to suggest how consequential that could be. Really, the focus on this is to improve the congestion so much that you don't have this issue anymore. And that's what we're seeing so far, is that the congestion improvements have been so substantial with what we're proposing that you don't have the concern with vehicles blocking the intersections any longer. And so that's the strategy that we're using for this project.
That's great. When I looked at, so something that was surprising to me yesterday was I drove at like 9:00 at night from Pacific going east towards South Delaware Street. And I had totally written off the fact and had no idea how many cars park on that corridor. And then I looked and saw that we have a loss of parking there for that corridor. And I mean, could we pull that up maybe? What is the reason for the loss of parking along that corridor?
The primary reason has to do with the driveways that we're installing in this area. So this is that corridor right here. Sorry, the new bike facility that we're proposing on the southerly side still, this is that same two-way bike facility. There are driveways in here that we need to maintain access to, and there's radii going into those driveways to make sure that we can appropriately allow for maneuvers through there. But we're widening into the northerly side of this. This is that lefterly of the left line or of the red line that you guys may have seen or that I was showing. And so we are looking to widen into this area, and this is still, again, a design that we're trying to refine with that priority of trying to maintain as much parking as possible. This area right in here, it's just worth noting as we're talking about it, is a bus staging area for Samtrans. This is currently being utilized in that way. This little square right here is representing a porta potty because this is where they actually stage and get out and transfer buses and things like that. And so again, we're looking to maintain the facilitation of this space for them as well.
For sure. That's great. Is it, and it maybe the answer is no, but is there an option perhaps to have, because this is a one-way and cyclists are protected already within and closer to the sidewalk, is there an opportunity to have some diagonal parking?
I think that's something that we can look at. Yeah, we just did that for the Bermuda project on Pacific, where we're looking to see how we could utilize the space to try to optimize the amount of parking. This parking is really interesting in that there's not a lot of, if I can add another comment, there's not a lot of specific uses around here that would suggest the need for this parking. So it's not adjacent to residential. It's all adjacent to like industrial commercial. And so what we see is that we're not quite sure who a lot of these folks are. We think during the daytime, they're Caltrain parkers who are skipping out on the fee, which, it's free parking. And that's the
and I had the same thought as you. And in fact, I was shocked because it was 9:30 at night. And I'm like, where are these people? Because everything there is industrial and everything there is closed. It's like there's nobody at the city courtyard. There's nobody at I think it's AT&T courtyard. And then you have the gas station. And so I think it must be people in the apartments either to the south on Delaware or, along the 19th Avenue corridor. And so, I don't, because at 9:30 at night on a Sunday, they're not riding the train. So I just want to make sure that we don't lose too many spaces there if we can help it. And go into the next section, which is Delaware to Grant. I know that's a lot of overflow from apartments. And so again, maybe, I don't know if this has the same opportunity, but if there's any opportunity to save some parking and, without losing a lane and with still keeping the protected bike lanes, I encourage us to look at all those things. I already talked about making sure that we don't shift traffic from 19th onto Bermuda, because that impacts the school, and we're trying to make that be a safe route to school. I think that's the majority of my questions. Let me make sure I don't have any more on the computer. So overall, I support this project. Just as we talked about with the South Delaware project, I want to make sure that it's as low impact as possible to the people that live in the neighborhood. I want to make sure that we are calculating as best we can for future growth. I recognize that if we have 20% more people living there, that the traffic and congestion is going to be worse. There's no two ways about that. But I want to make sure that, as best we can, we're forecasting and planning for it and looking for solutions that don't have a negative impact on the people that live there. And with that, I would say that I support this project, and I'll continue to watch it and continue to ask questions. So thank you. Council member.
My colleagues covered a lot of it, but Bethany, thank you for a really exhaustive presentation. Really, not exhaustive, like a very deeply detailed project. I only have a couple of questions. Can you talk about if there are any lighting improvements or any sort of pedestrian safety sort of measures that we're going to be, especially around the Norfolk area?
Yeah, definitely. Let me bring up
On the underpasses are at Norfolk.
The primary place that we're looking at it, it's not to say that we're not looking at it in other places, but the primary place is over Seal Slough Bridge. This is a place that we heard a lot of about it being very dark at night. And so we have started looking at this very explicitly to see if we can include it. And we think that we have a good recommendation so far that we will be able to include it, at least here. We don't have a recommendation just yet for any of the other parts, but I'm hearing that the bridge over the freeway is also a place where we want to make sure to focus. Right.
I think that's important. Additionally, can you talk a little bit more about the engagement that you've done with the owner of the ARCO station, if at all, and the event center, which I think are going, their entrances are going to be impacted by this project a lot?
The event center, no, but the ARCO gas station, yeah, we have reached out to them.
Has the owner been responsive? Because
they have not been responsive yet.
This is
so we're going to continue working to reach out to them. We want to make sure to talk with them about this project before we make.
We're pursuing we're business licenses, state records, whatever we have, because I think that's really important.
Just real quickly too, Dana Storr was at our meeting last Monday, representing the event center.
Fabulous. Thank you, Alex. I think that this is this has the potential to be a really great project if we continue with community engagement. One of my big concerns about this is the impact on the residents, and I want to make sure that we continue to do that engagement. I'm also, I'm excited about the additional ped safety and bike safety and the lanes, but the fact of the matter, like Mayor Newsom pointed out, is that a vast majority of the commuters in this area are drivers, and I think that we really need to make sure that we are doing what we can to mitigate traffic. I'm a little concerned that we're sort of, I don't know how to say this, like it feels a little bit like we're rushing a little bit because we have this grant money that's coming, and we're sort of putting our timeline behind the grant money instead of putting our timeline behind the residents. And that's concerning to me, considering that I live in a district where we're living with the effects of a similar project with the bike lanes. And so I just want to make sure that we are cautious and engaging and making sure that we're centering the residents, not necessarily centering timelines that we don't have a say in.
So I'm happy to
please
answer that.
Please.
So first and foremost, the city staff is really high touch and engaging on this initiative. this is, we're only at 35% design in the amount of outreach that staff is doing. I'm really proud of the outreach that they are doing right now and what they've brought forward. Additionally, yes, we did submit for a grant application last Friday. I signed for that. But at the same time, we've said that refinements can be made. So it's not a done deal. I know people from residents are saying, hey, what we've submitted, that's it. It's, just frozen in amber. That's not the case. We can make refinements on what we hear from the community, and we are committed to continuing to engage our community and make more refinements. Now, won't make everybody happy, right? And it's similar to like Delaware. So, everyone loses a little bit typically in these projects to get a great project to move forward. So we're open to hearing all the input from the community. We will provide a response to what we hear. Might not be what people like, but we're providing that response. We're going to look into it. And that's what I'm proud of our staff so far to date, especially when we look at just even the two previous initiatives, whether it's the train quiet zone, whether it's Delaware, and now we're working on Fashion Island. Want to make sure that we're all ears, and if we can, be able to incorporate the community's input within this project.
Okay, do you have the direction that you need? Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, final thing is a public hearing item. Oh yeah, maybe we should get back Danielle.
Should we take a 2-minute break?
Let's take a 5-minute break because I want to go home. Okay, now I'm unmuted. Welcome back. We're going to now discuss with a public hearing, item 10, consolidated annual progress and evaluation report for the CDBG grant. 24-25 adoption. We have a presentation from Jennifer Mora, the housing specialist. Welcome, Jennifer.
Hello, everyone. Good evening. So thank you all for having me tonight. So for tonight's public hearing would be on the CAPER report. Thank you for the introduction. I'm Jennifer Mora, housing specialist, and I'm also joined by Rachel Horst, who is with me virtually. So to provide a bit of context on why we're meeting tonight, the city is an entitlement jurisdiction to CDBG funds provided by the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. Every year, we are required to prepare a CAPER to highlight accomplishments that we've made using CDBG funds. The CAPER also serves as a checkpoint to see how we are doing in meeting our goals that we have set in our previous annual action plan, which is submitted a year before we begin working on the CAPER. So the CAPER covers one fiscal year. Since we just completed fiscal year 24-25, we will be reporting on the progress that the city has made using CDBG funds and to submit to HUD by the end of this month. So how exactly do we utilize CDBG funds? So with our CDBG entitlement, we are given the opportunity to partner with local organizations that serve low and moderate income residents of San Mateo. These organizations provide a variety of services in different categories, which I will go more in depth in the next slide. But overall, these partnerships serve San Mateo residents depending on their needs. In 24-25, our entitlement amount was $753,571. We utilized this entitlement amount to provide a handful of grants to various services. So for example, for our public services, we provided 7 grants to 7 agencies, which are shown on the table on the right. With these 7 agencies, we were able to serve 17,572 unduplicated individuals. I do want to note that Samaritan House was one of the agencies that served the most, just due to our funding to our to their core services program, which is an umbrella term of the variety of services that they provide. So this could be backpack distribution, food distribution, case management, financial wellness classes. So this program encompasses various services, hence why they serve a larger amount of clients. Moving on to minor home repair, we provided 2 grants to Rebuilding Together Peninsula, who served 4 homes with a variety of repairs and safety accommodations, helping low-income homeowners to make their home a more safe and accessible home. For economic development, we provided 2 grants to 2 agencies, Renaissance Entrepreneurship Center and Upwards. They serve 64 businesses or 64 folks who are either interested in starting their own business or also needed technical assistance for their current business. For fair housing, we provided a grant to Project Sentinel, who served a total of 12 case clients in fiscal year 24-25. And last but not least, for public facilities, we provided CDBG funding to our Public Works Department, who provided traffic signal and pedestrian improvements in 3rd Avenue and Norfolk Avenue. I do also want to note that 2 awards were declined due to limited capacity within these organizations. They just didn't have enough staff to run the program. But in the future, if they're eligible again, if they have enough staffing, they're more than welcome to reapply. So for these organizations, they were able to either come close or exceed the annual goal of number of people served. Due to our close partnership with these organizations, we were able to provide technical assistance in the case that they are experiencing any challenges in meeting their annual goals. So this was a really great opportunity for the city to build partnership with these organizations and see how can the city assist in making sure that they meet their annual goals. Overall, the city is on target for meeting the 5-year goals listed in our 23-27 consolidated plan. The CAPER is also a great opportunity to not only showcase any accomplishments that we have made using CDBG funds, but we also utilize this opportunity to show HUD any other accomplishments that the city has done in terms of affordable housing, poverty reduction, or any other public services. So for example, we showcased that Kiku Crossing, a 225-unit affordable housing development, was completed in the spring of 2024 and was fully occupied by fall of 2024. So in a couple months, 225 households were provided with affordable housing. And for our emergency rental assistance program, another accomplishment made by the city, we are projected to serve 37 households by the end of July 31st of 2026. The city also receives state funding, which is our permanent local housing allocation funds. And we utilize these funds for homelessness and housing services. So below are the handful of organizations that we help fund in the previous fiscal year. So that was a brief overview of the CAPER, and I do want to note that our CAPER was updated on the past week just due to HUD guidelines, but no substantial edits were made to the draft. And last week, we did present this to the Community Relations Commission for their review and their recommendation of the CAPER draft, which was unanimously approved by the CRC. And at the same time, we held our public comment period, which started on August 29th and ended just today. And so far, we have not received any public comments, neither during the public comment period nor during the CRC meeting. So staff's recommendation is for the adoption of the 24-25 Consolidated Annual Progress and Evaluation Report, also known as the CAPER, for submittal to the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development. Thank you.
Thank you very much for a very thorough presentation. Do we have any requests for public comment?
Mayor Newsom, we have no requests to speak in chambers and none in our virtual environment.
Well, then I will close public comment and open it up to questions, comments, and a motion from the council. Anybody?
Great presentation. I'd love to motion.
I
Proceed.
have one question.
Oh, okay.
How secure are we for funding sources for the next year? I mean, there's so much going on both the federal and state level. Are we concerned, or do we feel like this is pretty safe money?
Progress being made, but Zach can help out in answering that question.
I don't know that we have a complete answer for that. I think we are continuing to monitor and track updated guidance and calibrate our responses accordingly. So at this point, we're moving forward and we haven't seen anything to indicate we won't be getting our allocation, but we continue to monitor and we'll keep the council posted.
Well, it's a great presentation. I think we're doing everything right and we should keep on keeping on. So with that, I'll open it up for a motion.
Motion.
I got a motion and a second. Can we get a roll call, please?
Councilmember Svirko-Goditsky?
Yes.
Councilmember Fernandez? Yes. Councilmember Diaz-Nash?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Lorraine?
Yes.
And Mayor Newsom?
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you so much. Okay, winding down, we are now at the point where we will query the council and staff for reports and announcements. Does anyone have reports and announcements? Yes, Councilmember Svirko-Goditsky.
Thank you. Just reminder, and I'm probably going to say this until these events happen, but the PAL board has Dia de los Muertos, October 11th, MLK Center from 12 to 3. Also, November 9th at the Elks Club, we'll be doing a packing day for 101st Airborne. That flyer should be going out in the next few days too to RSVP. Just a quick follow-up on some items. I did just want to ask, is there any progress being made on the speed surveys?
Yes, I can go ahead and I'll send, we have a whole timeline of the work that'll be conducted over the next, I believe, 8 months. So it's underway.
Okay. And then what about the mayoral minute? Have we started doing that?
I haven't seen it yet, so it's something that we can follow up with our mayor to talk about next steps on that.
So
And we just as kind of advertising, we are hiring for a comms manager. It went out today.
hey, all right,
Okay.
we're hiring.
And then just a quick ask about the firework ordinance. How's that progressing?
So that's going to be delayed a little bit. I'm going to be meeting with a police chief. We have to do a nexus study in order to be able to justify charging certain fines. And so that'll be coming back to the council, hopefully early next year.
Apologies. What is a nexus study?
So it's basically how it connects the fee that you basically determine what goes into making that fee. So the staff time, whether it be the equipment, the resources that align. And so legally we have to have a nexus study done in order to charge certain fees. And that's with all our fees. It's state law.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Anybody else? Deputy Mayor, you want to go?
Sure. Thank you, through the mayor. I'll be brief. We did hear from some folks earlier this evening, give a presentation on the Make Polluters Pay Superfund Act. And I discussed this with the city manager, and as we have a legislative committee meeting on the calendar, I thought it might be good to ask CPPG to take a look at the bill for the committee to review. And then at that committee meeting, we can take a look and see if there's a recommendation that the committee could give to the council and go from there, as long as there are no objections. And with that, those are my comments.
Thank you. We'll let the birthday girl go next. Councilmember Diaz-Nash.
God, I got to make this last as long as possible. Thank you, Deputy Mayor, for making that comment about bringing things to the Legislative Committee, because I actually met with the group and I told them that that was what they needed to do in order to be able to get anything before the council, that it was the Legislative Committee. So that's number one. And then this Thursday night, September Nights on B, we all should be there. I had a great time last time with the piano group. It's Buddy Love this week. So
All right.
lots of swing dancing. And then on the 25th, Heart is having the annual networking event at Devil's Canyon starting at 5, supporting workforce housing. So please come on out. And on the 28th, the Chamber is supporting their annual San Mateo Arts and Culture Fest, which is exciting because it's all local artists, performers in down both this and September Nights on B are on B Street. Fantastic event. So I thoroughly invite everybody to be part of it.
Fantastic. Again, happy birthday. And Councilmember Fernandez.
Just a couple of notes. Tomorrow night is the San Mateo, the third edition of the Town Hall on Childcare that Supervisor Gaucher and Supervisor Spear are holding listening sessions all around the county to hear from parents and providers about issues they may be facing around obtaining childcare, finding childcare, paying for childcare. It's going to be tomorrow at 6 o'clock at the Oak Room at the library. And then last weekend, I was able to go to the ribbon cutting of the new mural at Coyote Point for the bathrooms. Just if you enter to Coyote Point and then to the left, it's this beautiful nature mural made by planned and painted with over 40 young people from all across San Mateo County and the wider region. If you want to see a pretty bathroom, please go check it out.
Thank you. Okay, Councilmember Swerkle-Kadini.
I'm so sorry. I forgot something. A resident reached out to me today. There were 2 students, Drew Diaz and Philip Greeley, that are both San Mateo natives. and they actually walked across America to raise money for charity. So they walked from the Atlantic coast back to San Mateo. They arrived home yesterday, I believe. And they raised almost $100,000 for charities. So I believe CBS is going to be doing a spotlight, but perhaps they're the youngest people in America to walk across the country, 3,600 miles. Perhaps we should recognize them here at City Hall.
I couldn't agree more. And they're actually putting together a flyer so that we can help promote them. I know Aragon, the sophomore, he's taking a gap year right now, which is how he's able to be a sophomore and walk across the country. But I think we really should do whatever we can to really promote them and celebrate them across the county and beyond.
We definitely have more than 3 nodding heads, so we will do so. What's that? Okay, and we'll go back to Deputy Mayor Lorraine.
Apologies to the mayor. I forgot a few things, actually, spurred on by other council members mentioning events, and I apologize, but I did feel like I should mention that this Saturday, the 20th, is Coastal Cleanup Day, as well as, I believe, the Autumn Moon Festival in Central Park from Self-Help for the Elderly. So you have multiple options to enjoy this Saturday in our city. And I guess I did want to bring this up. I hope I'm not stealing the mayor's thunder, but in addition to the Make Polluters Pay Superfund Act, it might be a bit late to consider this, but we could potentially review Proposition 50 as well at our legislative committee if others are interested in doing so.
Sure.
Thank you.
Okay. I literally had 2 things and the deputy mayor cleaned me out. All right. I have good work. Yeah, I'm like, that's it. That's everything. And you can do the Autumn Moon Festival Walk and the Bayfront cleanup. You can do both. I have done it before. It's definitely doable. A little bit aggressive, but it's definitely doable. And both are great events. So we hope we see you out there and hope to see you out on Thursday night. Thursday nights on B. And with that, we will close this meeting at 10:24.